Welcome to the menopause. Nope, that's not what it's called.
Might as well be for this season, though. The Menopause
Logic.
Logic
We're trying to
podcast.
logic our way through a lot of these menopause people, and man, it's hard.
I'm Laurel Beversdorf, strength and conditioning coach.
And I'm Dr. Sarah Court, physical therapist.
With over 30 years of combined experience in fitness, movement, and physical therapy,
We believe in strong opinions, loosely held,
which means we're not here to hype outdated movement concepts.
or to gatekeep or fearmonger strength training for women.
For too long, women have been sidelined in strength training.
Oh, you mean handed pink dumbbells and told to sculpt?
Whatever that means, we're here to change that with tools, evidence, and ideas that center women's needs and voices.
Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Movement Logic Podcast. I am Dr. Sarah Court. I'm a physical therapist, and I am here today with my partner, Laurel Beversdorf. She is a CSCS, strength and conditioning coach, and a yoga teacher. Laurel, what is up?
What is up? Oh man, what am I doing? How am I doing?
You're going to Turkey.
I'm going to Turkey.
Which
That's
is amazing.
happening.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited for you.
Thank you. I'm excited too. I've been brushing up on my Ottoman Empire history.
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah.
going to say, well, what language did they speak in Turkey? Turkish?
Turkish,
Shit.
yeah.
Do you
Shit,
have
I
you
hope
learned
I'm
any
right
of
about
the,
that.
probably some like please and thank you. I always try to
Listen,
get please and thank you down.
If I know the founder of the Ottoman Empire, but I don't know what language they speak,
You're like, well, I could definitely talk to them about their whole history as long as it's in English.
listen, that was the rabbit hole I went down. So thanks for digging me out. Yeah, we're going to Turkey. My husband has a conference there. And
Okay.
he was like, hey, you want to go to Turkey? I was like, well, yeah. We're going
sure.
to take a hot air balloon ride in Cappadocia,
Oh my God.
which I don't know if you've heard of Cappadocia. It's the ancient cave dweller structures where there's these multi-story entire villages built into caves.
Oh wow.
You get into these beautiful, bright hot air balloons, which are lifting off early in the morning for however many meters or miles around you. Everyone's floating up into the air, and then you're looking down at these gorgeous
Oh my
cave.
God. Well, that
Yeah,
sounds amazing. I'm so excited for you to go on this trip, and I can't wait to hear all about it when you come
We're
back.
very excited. We're
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Okay, so before we get into today's episode, we've got to talk to you about our free strength class coming up. And this free strength class it's actually the first class that we teach as part of our Lift for Longevity, our bone density course.
As a sample, we're not starting the course, but it's our sample class, and it's basically just lifted out of the course.
Right, exactly. You can come take this class completely for free. You don't even need to have barbells. All you need is whatever like hand weights you have at home. If you've got a couple of dumbbells, you can bring a broomstick or a dowel as a stand-in because we're going to teach you how to lift barbells, right? We're going to teach barbell technique, but you can still take the class even if you don't have barbells yourself. And it's a way for you to just get it's an amuse-bouche. It's a tasty little sample of what it's like to work with us, right? You've got a sense of who we are from the podcast. And you're like, well, I think I like them, but do I like them enough to spend 6 months with them? Right. So you get a chance to see what we're like in action. Laurel and I will both be teaching. We'll be co-teaching the class. And it's just a really fun time and you'll learn tons. One of the people in our cohort, I was actually talking to her about it, and she mentioned how much she learned just from the free class, not even from taking the whole course. So we would love for you to join us. The class is on October 17th. It's 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern. There is a replay because it's 2025 and there's always a replay.
So don't feel like you need to arrive and work out if you'd rather just watch the class and be there live so that you can ask questions. Also, if you want feedback, we give feedback in this free class. We want you to get a sense of what the course is like from that live class component, especially, which is probably the most valuable aspect of this course. Camera on if you want feedback, camera off if you just want to lurk.
I'm a lurker. I always
I'm
lurk.
a lurker too. And so this is, I think, a great way that even if you're just moderately curious, this is a great way to really get a very good sense of what most of the course content will be like.
That's right. So again, that's on October 17th, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, and you will be able to sign up for that class in the link in the show notes.
Woohoo!
So we have talked a lot this season about menopause and menopause myths. For example, episode 109 is about menopause myths. We also talked about myths around exercise for women, and in particular for women in the menopause transition in our interview of Lauren Colenso-Semple. And we also talked about myths for women in the menopause transition and other myths for women in our Make Stacey Sims Make Sense episode. So this episode is all about menopause grifters, and it is the return of the Griftometer TM.
Woohoo!
Laurel, are you excited about getting to use the Griftometer again?
I am. We have not registered it yet, though. It still has the TM symbol.
That's right. Well, wait, does TM mean we just TM'd it because
People put
everybody
TM.
TMs
I know,
everything?
it's a fucking joke. It's a fucking joke.
Yes.
We did not fucking trademark.
We did not trademark
it. But the reason it's a joke is because a lot of the grifters that we examine have trademarked a lot of things.
A lot of things. So today we are focusing on two specific menopause grifters, Dr. Mary Claire Haver and Dr. Vonda Wright. We have chosen these two as they have a lot of skin in the menopause game. Now, Laurel, do you notice anything right off the bat about these two folks?
Is it their title as doctor, perhaps?
It
Both are
is.
medical doctors?
It
Ding,
is.
ding, 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 ding. Yeah, and I think that this is important to flag because it's a reason I think people often drop their defenses around certain individuals that are espousing certain claims or selling certain products. Like as soon as you see that they have a doctor in front of their name, it signals expertise, it signals medical doctor, and it signals all kinds of appeals to authority. We should trust this person. They've had a lot of schooling. They have an expertise. They would never put us in danger. They would never sell us harmful, dubious products. They're doctors, right?
Right.
And we've seen plenty of examples of this not being true. Dr. Oz is a great example. He seems to have drifted away from the straight and narrow path of the Hippocratic Oath and evidence-based medicine in pursuit of the mighty dollar.
Yeah. I think for all the doctors that start branding themselves and start having a public face and a persona kind of a thing, like them, like Peter Attia, I don't know. It seems like it's only a matter of time before they start doing things that are a bit sketch.
I think that there's room for nuance here. I think it is possible to walk this line and still be evidence-based, to still draw from epistemologically sound information when advising certain behaviors, when even selling something.
Yeah.
Where it gets really sticky is that a lot of the things that doctors might sell probably should involve some type of evaluation from the doctor selling the thing, right? Or at least involve some kind of individualized guidance. And doctors on the internet can never provide that.
Right.
Even when Sarah gives advice to injured students or students with pain in Live for Longevity, she's basically a lot of the time asking them very general questions, getting them to potentially seek out an eval from a PT in their area. She's not giving super specific advice about what to do about the hip pain. So when you have, I think, doctors online selling some type of intervention, okay, and by intervention, we could mean a lot of different things, but I'm going to take, for example, supplements. Mm-hmm. If a person has not received an evaluation like a blood test to know that they're deficient in a supplement, what basis does the doctor then have to say that their audience of however many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of, I don't know, followers, what basis do they have to suggest that that supplement has any value, right?
Yeah.
That's where I think it gets pretty sticky. So I think when doctors are asking for there to have been an evaluation before providing some type of advice or treatment, then I think we're on the right track. But very little of that is happening with the people we're talking about today.
Yeah, and it's kind of impossible, right? If
It's
your
it,
goal
yeah.
is to become a public figure as a doctor, which is what these people are doing, right? There's plenty of doctors out there who have no interest in becoming a public figure, but these people have decided that that's what they want. And so to become a public figure, you are going to be doing things like writing books, you're doing speaker engagements, you're doing all of these things to make a living as a public figure. And I agree. I mean, it is a very slippery slope. I think it's a very fine tightrope to walk where the things you are saying are general enough that it's not going to be endangering or useless to the people listening.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you run out of, I'm not going to become a famous physical therapist by my platform being like, everybody needs to exercise more and get enough sleep. You know what I mean? Like, you have
Well,
to at
I
some
mean,
point go out on a
I
limb and
don't,
say something that's
yeah,
maybe
but
a little bit controversial, or like come up with some new thing so that people have something to grab onto.
I don't know if that's always true though. And the reason I think this is important to mention is that I think that the nuance helps people be more critically minded about who they're listening to and whether or not they should trust them. So for example, the barbell medicine people are doctors, right? To
Yeah.
my knowledge, the things they sell are personal training and exercise programs.
No,
Okay?
there's definitely doctors out there that are doing the right thing, but these people are not on the. Mary Claire Haver has 7 million followers. I think there's a level of fame that you get to where that kind of, I feel like it's the Oprah kiss of death, where it's like as soon as you become someone that Oprah is aware of, you've probably sold your soul a little bit, is
Right.
my
I
feeling.
think that might be a criteria to look for, but I think more importantly is to look for when you're looking
Mhm.
at a famous doctor. Okay. So docs who lift are arguably famous doctors. The barbell medicine people, arguably famous doctors. But I think these doctors, for the most part, what they're doing is they're coming on, yes, in some cases to like definitely boost their brand. A lot of them have podcasts. A lot of them even are selling things or selling services, but they aren't using cherry picked studies to do it. They're using best available evidence to do it.
Right.
And a lot of what they're doing is actually helping to myth bust all of the doctors out there selling fake solutions. I just want to make sure that we're not saying like all doctors online who have a brand and are selling something,
Absolutely.
you know, I
Yeah.
don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true either. And I don't think that's what we're saying. I think there's definitely like good docs and bad docs.
Mhm.
I think it probably gets harder the more money gets offered to you. I will say that. And I think once you get into like the Oprah sphere, things probably get a little sticky.
I definitely think there's something to this idea that when you enter into the millions of followers, right, that you have probably had to simplify your message in some pretty deal breaking ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in so doing, they end up doing harm
Yeah.
because it can never be as simple as the millions of people who follow
Right.
them
Right.
believe that it is and want it to be.
Right. Well, and that's a human nature thing, right? We want this five-step solution. We want these figures of authority to tell us what to do, I mean, all that stuff. So, yes, thank you for making that point. I think it's a really good point to make that not all doctors online are grifters trying to sell you something. And I'm also hopeful that based on all the episodes that we've done this, I was about to say season,
Mhm.
especially the Stacey Sims one where we talk about the kind of language people use when they're trying to sell you something. Hopefully, my goal for listeners is to make them more savvy and have the antenna up so that when you see claims from doctors online, you can really go through and be like, okay, wait a minute. What is this? What are they saying? What are they claiming? Is this evidence good evidence? Are other people saying this? All of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So that's my goal for people. Hopefully, this episode will help with that as well. So here's how this episode is going to go. We're going to talk about each of these people, Dr. Mary Claire Haver and Dr. Vonda Wright. We're going to give you some background on them. We're going to give you some of their professional history, how they came to be grifty, and then we're going to put them through the griftometer and see how they fare. Now, the last time we used the griftometer was for bone density grifters, which was episode 96. All of these episodes will be in the show notes, of course. Today, we're using it for menopause grifters. So, since we're using it for a different style of grifter, I changed it a little bit because
Yeah.
some of the categories didn't quite fit.
Yeah.
So, let's just roll through all of today's categories so we can familiarize ourselves with them before we get into the individual particulars of each person. Laurel, could you start us off?
Yeah. So the first criteria is, do you even know what the real problem is, bruh? No, you don't. Right. This is the tactic, right?
Right.
They'll try to make you believe you don't know what the real problem is. I'm going to tell you what the real problem is. The problem is that you're in menopause and your muscles are melting off your body. Your bones are crumbling to dust. You're halfway to dementia already, and your cortisol is shooting through the roof. Another way to say this classic pseudoscience where the grifter will create an outsized problem, they'll scare you about it, and then they'll sell you a solution that's ineffective and unnecessary.
Category number 2 is called everyone needs this. And this is when we see no differentiation between an individual's needs or a population, for example. So everyone going through menopause needs to be taking supplements. Everyone going through menopause needs to be intermittent fasting. Everyone going through menopause needs a weighted vest.
Number 3, appearance assassinators.
Uh-oh.
Are they selling you products that are supposed to improve your ugly, wrinkly, no longer of childbearing age, therefore attractive and valuable to society appearance? This is grifting in a patriarchy where women's value is, of course, based on what they look like. And of course, then their deepest fears are seated in the possibility that they won't look up to snuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously, not based on what they can do, skills, talents, none of that. So, both women and men will often sell products to women that claim to decronify us. That's so awesome. Decronify.
Are you a crone? Buy my product. All right, number 4 is fiddle faddle, also known as word salad. Nonsensical claims that don't mean anything when you try to parse their meaning. This is a sort of classic marketing tactic where you emphasize buzzwords or phrases like cortisol belly that get people all riled up and freaked out, but don't have any basis in fact and are not even remotely evidence-based.
All right. Then number 5, we have microscope of practice. So ask yourself, the person who's talking to you, selling you something, telling you have all these problems, does this person have the credentials to be talking about these problems and what to do about them? As such, do they have any business selling you the solutions they're selling? So if they're a medical professional, does that mean they also have particular credentials to push nutrition advice, exercise advice? Are they leaning very hard into the trust me, I'm a doctor narrative?
Yeah.
Also, what kind of doctor are they? Are they an orthopedic surgeon who is also telling you about your skin? Stuff like that. Just let that raise your hackles a little bit.
All right. Our next one is called Unfair Advantage, and it's called that because this is one of the supplements that the Bulletproof diet sells. And so this category is about selling supplements. Does this person sell supplements or other diet-related products? If so, is there any oversight as far as the claims made about what these supplements can do, or have they just cherry-picked evidence to support these claims? In particular, are they picking evidence that has been funded by the product that is being tested? Because there's a big problem with that. And we're going to see some of that later on.
And then the last criteria is called Army Hammer.
Do you know who Army Hammer is?
No.
Oh, okay.
Wait, is that that actor who?
Yes.
Oh God,
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, you're
Wasn't
exactly
he a cannibal or something?
Well, no. I mean, I don't know what's up with him, but he comes from a very wealthy family, and then he also became a famous actor. And then some text messages came out where he talked about cannibalism with a girlfriend, I think, or something.
It's really not a good thing when your name becomes associated with cannibalism.
Well, listen, we're not here to kink shame, but we're calling it Army Hammer because this is about an army of people, right, Laurel?
Okay, fine. Back on track. Army Hammer. It's when your army of followers becomes like a cudgel, a hammer in the comment section of anyone who is critically evaluating your claims. Okay, so this isn't necessarily something they do, right? We can't just conjure an army of hammers. But it's something that kind of emerges from online presences like the ones we're going to talk about today. We evaluated, for example, many of the tactics Stacy Sims uses in episode 111. These are persuasive rhetorical tactics that easily win people over. But what happens inside an ecosystem where these tactics are regularly employed to persuade and to win trust or to basically establish yourself as an authority to make promises for the products you're selling is that you end up with a lot of followers who are not great critical thinkers. You've never encouraged them to think critically, right? Because your whole shtick is, I'm an authority, you have problems, believe me, I'm going to persuade you of the things I need you to believe in order to buy my products. So these people, then when you start critiquing their follower, they get really upset and they come at you and they like to lob a lot of criticism, such as, you shouldn't bring women down. You don't need to tear women down. Why are you so mean? Why are you swearing? Why are you saying these negative things about this person who helped me so much, right? There's that survivor bias where we don't hear from all the people that this person actually led astray. Frankly, a lot of them just move on and find better solutions. But the people who stick around, they don't like it when you criticize their dear leader. So we've had a few up close and personal experiences with this. We're going to tell you about it.
Okay, so those are our 7 categories for the Griftometer. Once we have talked about each of these people, we're going to score them and see how they do. So let's start with Dr. Mary Claire Haver. Now, speaking of the Army Hammer, if you follow us on Instagram, you may have seen I think kerfuffle is the best way to describe it, that took place in July over a couple of posts that Laurel and I made. We each stitched part of an Instagram post that Haver had made showing her working out. And what we were both commenting on was the fact that she was wearing a weighted vest, which she has an Amazon affiliate link for, throughout the workout, even for her deadlifts and for her assisted pull-ups, right? Which, if you think about it, putting on a weighted vest and then doing a deadlift is essentially your ability to pick something heavy up from the ground, right? So putting the weighted vest on is not going to increase your ability to pick up something heavy from the ground, right? It's just going to make your body heavier. And then adding the weighted vest to your body, but then using a jump band under your foot to do your assisted pull-up to take weight off your body, that just does not make a ton of sense. It doesn't make any sense. So Laurel made a post about the deadlift, and I made a post about the assisted pull-up. And Laurel, what happened?
Okay, so we posted and people got mad. Well, first of all, the post did really well. They got a lot of views.
Yeah.
And a lot of comments on both sides and in the middle, right? So like a lot of people had something to say. It generated a lot of engagement, I think is the correct social media speak.
Yes.
And it got shared a lot and all that good stuff. And, obviously like Sarah and I, we disagree with the information Mary Claire Haver's putting out there. We disagree with what we think are her motives, right? I mean, at least her motive of using dubious claims and products to make money, right? Yeah. She might think what she's doing is helping, but the evidence suggests otherwise. So our whole purpose of making these posts is to really call attention to these types of individuals online who are pushing products that are a distraction, a waste of money, or they're just not really adequately explaining like why, for example, you would wear a weighted vest. So this is all about the weighted vest, right? And it was squarely within Sarah and my scope of practice as people who teach strength training to call into question Mary Claire Haver's ineffectual use of the weighted vest in 2 exercises where it literally makes no sense to be wearing a weighted vest. So we knew it was a perfect opportunity to make people go, does this woman actually know what she's talking about? Like, why is she stepping outside of her lane, frankly, to share strength training advice in a way that's really nonsensical? And we got a lot of blowback from her Army Hammer, who thought we were tearing down a woman, and therefore that's just a mortal sin. Because she's a woman, we immediately cannot be critical of what she's doing or saying, which is just a horribly anti-feminist thing to think.
Yes.
It's like women are too delicate to be criticized.
Or why would you criticize another woman? It's so hard for women out here.
It's very infantilizing. It's this whole idea that like we have to be very kind of gentle with children too. It's like, no, this is a person who is a full-grown fucking adult. She has a lot of money, an enormous following. She happens to be a woman. She's selling bullshit. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
She's captivated a lot of people for unknown reasons. And we're going to throw a little wrench in that.
Yeah. The hammer came for our wrench for sure. And I think we are both now blocked by Mary Claire Haver.
We are, yeah.
Which is, I think, a rite of passage. Like, if you want to consider yourself someone who's contributing to the dialogue, you need to get blocked by her.
Well, we had people in our comments on our posts talking about how they were blocked by Mary Claire Haver for literally just asking an honest question as people who were looking for an answer from her about something, right? And they weren't trying to push her buttons. They weren't trying to question her authority. They weren't trying to challenge her with some counter argument.
Yeah.
And Mary Claire Haver immediately blocks them. And they're like, yeah, I didn't really know what to do about that. Why was I blocked?
Yeah.
Well, you probably asked a question she couldn't answer.
She's a big fan of blocking and also of taking posts down, which is, you're allowed to curate your social media however you want. But the immediate blockage kind of thing is like, well, all right. So you're not allowing any conversation even around what you're doing. You're like,
Right.
Agree with me or else.
Right.
So we're going to get more into what we think is the driving force for her followers, why they are so the way they are, and in particular, their dislike of our tone. But first, let's talk about the woman herself, Dr. Mary Claire Haver. So this information is all from her website, The Pause Life. It's pause with an apostrophe before it. So she's kind of coined this term of the menopause life, the pause life, right? So this is from her bio. Dr. Mary Claire Haver is a board-certified obstetrics and gynecology specialist, a certified menopause practitioner from the Menopause Society. The North American Menopause Society is now just called the Menopause Society. An adjunct associate professor at University of Texas Medical Branch, a certified culinary medicine specialist. That's interesting. And a passionate entrepreneur and best-selling author with a focus on women's health. Dr. Haver graduated from Louisiana State University Medical Center and completed her obstetrics and gynecology residency at UTMB. As her patient population grew older, Dr. Haver started receiving numerous complaints and concerns about weight gain during menopause. This inspired her to do a deep dive into the science of menopause, aging, and inflammation beyond what she was taught in school and residency, which led to the creation of the Galveston Diet online program and in 2023, a national best-selling book, The New Menopause. The Mary Claire Wellness Clinic was born in 2021 after repeated requests for in-person appointments. The clinic is a unique practice dedicated to caring for menopausal patients. Dr. Haver integrates a patient's medical history, symptomatology, nutrition, exercise, supplements, and possibly hormone therapy, or what she likes to call, quote, the menopause toolkit. She founded The Pause Life, a comprehensive approach to menopause education and support using techniques that focus on overall lifestyle, helping women reach their best feeling selves. So we've got a few different things to look at here, and I'd actually like to start with the Galveston Diet, which evidently is named for Galveston, Texas. Haver is from Texas. Laurel, could you tell us about the Galveston Diet?
Sure. So she's written a book for women in menopause called The Galveston Diet, and here's the blurb from her website about it. The doctor developed patient-proven plan to burn fat and tame your hormonal symptoms. The Galveston Diet is a patient-tested nutrition and lifestyle program to balance nutrition and sustain weight loss, including more than 40 delicious recipes and 6 weeks of meal plans tailored to women in midlife. Are you hearing that high-pitched whistle, Sarah? Yeah, the dog whistle. We're already seeing some lingo aimed at women here. So we've got burn fat, tame your hormonal symptoms. Claims that are for certain overstated. Quote, tailored to women in midlife. Last I checked, men and women don't have to eat different types of food. Sounds like a really lazy attempt at pseudo-feminist virtue signaling.
Yeah. And I just want to talk about the tame your hormonal symptoms part as someone who's gone through a real shitty menopause. It is known that there are certain types of food and drink that can irritate and worsen your hot flash symptoms specifically. So caffeine, sugar, alcohol, spicy foods, like these are common known about culprits, but not everything bothers everyone. For me, for example, I can drink caffeine, no problem. But if I have something alcoholic, my face is on fire. Avoiding certain categories, though, it only serves to not worsen symptoms. There's no nutrition plan that I know of that can tame hormonal symptoms if we're taking tame to mean get rid of. Every women's menopause transition is different. So this is really broad marketing claim. This is not science.
Yeah. Now, if you go in Amazon and look up the Galveston diet, the Amazon page highlights 3 aspects of the book. One aspect is intermittent fasting, a 16 to 8 eating to fasting window to utilize the body's fat stores and reduce inflammation. The 16 to 8, can I ask, is it 16 hours in which you can
Fasting.
eat, 8 in which you fast, or
No.
16 in which you fast, 8
Yeah.
in which you, okay, great.
Yeah.
So the 16 to 8 fasting to eating window. All right. And then anti-inflammatory nutrition. So this means limiting added sugars, processed carbs, chemical additives. So this, anytime you hear chemical, it's like an immediate red flag, like whistle of watch out for chemicals.
Ultra processed.
Newsflash, everything is chemicals.
Yeah.
Preservatives. And so this is about limiting all of that. And then it layers in anti-inflammatory foods like leafy greens, olive oil, berries, nuts, and tomatoes. Okay. And then fuel refocus. So starting in their 30s, women need a specific ratio of healthy fats, lean protein, and quality carbohydrates to optimize their overall health and efficiently burn fat
Oh, boy.
as fuel. Yeah, it's such a 2 truths and a lie type of a thing going on here.
Yeah.
So this is a weight loss book. Let's be clear about that, right? It's not just about eating the kinds of foods that help with menopause symptoms. Again, it's questionable that those foods exist. It's leaning into the fact that for many women going through the menopause transition, they notice that they've increased their fat mass around their belly area. And we talked a lot about this in our Menopause Myths, Hot Flashes, Cold Facts episode. To reiterate, a large-scale study by Ponzer et al. Showed no sudden increase in weight gain for women during the menopause transition. So blaming weight gain on menopause is incorrect. Women, of course, might be gaining weight. I mean, we're not
Right.
gaslighting you.
Right.
And that's due to probably a myriad of factors having to do with lifestyle shifts as you get older. It's complex. Also, yes, body composition shifts to where fat is stored more around the middle, which we talk about in Hot Flashes, Cold Facts. But this means that a weight loss book that's main claim is that it's tailored to women in menopause who suddenly have weight gain, and it's prescribing all of these different ways of eating for people in menopause to promote fat loss. This book was published in 2023, okay? The Ponzer study was published in 2021. I'm just going to leave that there.
Let's just pick through these claims to begin with. So the first one, a 16 to 8 ratio intermittent fast, or sometimes it's called time restricted feeding, TRF, or sometimes it's called time restricted eating, TRE. So that is when you only eat during an 8-hour window and you fast for the remaining 16 hours of the day. I asked Consensus, which is the AI app that we use to do literature reviews, what does the research show about the efficacy of a 16 to 8 time restricted feeding for women in menopause? And here's what it says. This is a quote. Research consistently shows that 16 to 8 time restricted feeding leads to modest but significant weight loss in peri and postmenopausal women. Studies report average weight reductions of 1.3 to 4 kilograms, which is roughly between 3 to 9 pounds, over 6 to 12 weeks with high adherence and acceptability rates. Fat mass reduction is observed, though changes in visceral fat and lean mass are less consistent, with some studies noticing no significant change in these parameters for women. Now, I'm not a dietitian, and neither is Laurel, so I'm speaking anecdotally right now, but it seems to me that you could lose 3 to 9 pounds over 6 to 12 weeks by restricting calories, right? Which is the current best evidence for weight loss for all populations. These results are not like spectacular, suddenly, oh my God, intermittent fasting. So I asked a follow-up question to Consensus, and this is the question I asked. Is time-restricted feeding a superior weight loss method over calorie restriction for women in menopause? And it said, no. Time restricted feeding is not superior to calorie restriction for weight loss in menopausal women. Both methods yield similar results. And so here's one of the studies that it cites, but there were a lot of these. This
Can
is
I
just
just
one of
say
them.
something? The
Sure.
reason that time restricted feeding would be as effective as calorie restriction is when time restricted feeding causes calorie restriction.
Exactly.
They're not going to lead to weight loss unless there is calorie restriction.
Yeah, right. And so what this study that I looked at found, so this is called Calorie Restriction with or Without Time Restricted Eating in Weight Loss by Liu et al. From 2022. It was a randomized control trial. It followed over 100 people with obesity. And this is also so much of the weight loss studies are looking at people with obesity. They're not looking at people with maybe 5-10 pounds to lose, like say.
Right.
I don't know. Again, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a metabolism specialist, but it strikes me that these populations might have different needs. So this study was looking at people with obesity. They were randomized into two groups, one that followed a calorie restricted diet but no time limitations, and one that followed the same diet but with time restricted eating between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. only. And the results found no significant difference between groups. So the intermittent fasting on its own did not do anything without calorie restriction. Right.
And when you haven't bought into this idea that it's not about calorie restriction, which a lot of grifters will try to tell you that that's a lie.
Right. For women in menopause in particular.
Right.
That it suddenly doesn't work anymore.
It's suddenly women in menopause's bodies no longer follow the laws of physics.
Right. Yeah. And so there's other studies that pit time restricted feeding against calories in, calories out, right? That's calorie restriction. And they found that without the caloric deficit, time restricted feeding by itself is not a viable method of weight loss. So it's kind of like, what's the point? A little bit.
So the next claim is that inflammation in the body is the underlying cause of many diseases and the underlying cause of weight gain.
Yeah.
So we asked consensus. Is inflammation in the body the underlying cause of many diseases and weight gain? And here's what it found. This is a quote from consensus itself. Quote, chronic low-grade inflammation is a central mechanism in the development of many diseases associated with obesity, including type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, certain cancers, neurodegenerative diseases, and autoimmune conditions. And here's one of the papers it cites. Inflammatory Mechanisms Linking Obesity and Metabolic Disease by Saltiel and Olevsky from 2017. It shows that yes, for people who have obesity or metabolic disease, there is a strong link with chronic inflammation in the body. Association and link does not equal cause, and we're going to get into that. Quote, numerous studies indicate that inflammation occurs as a consequence of obesity, and recent insights suggest that it may play a causative role in generating insulin resistance, defective insulin secretion, and disruption of other aspects of energy homeostasis. We have this book suggesting that inflammation is the underlying cause of many diseases and inflammation is the underlying cause of weight gain. I think we're mixing up what the meaning of cause is with what the meaning of association is. Okay, so this paper and consensus don't suggest that inflammation causes weight gain. They suggest that inflammation causes chronic diseases and that these chronic diseases, brought on by inflammation, are associated with weight gain. I think we can say it this way. Obesity tends to be associated with inflammation, but inflammation doesn't cause obesity.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's
and
right.
Obesity and chronic disease might be associated. Inflammation and chronic disease might be associated, but inflammation doesn't cause obesity. I think this distinction is important, okay? Higher levels of body fat, particularly visceral fat, are indeed associated with more inflammation, but it's not universal. So people classified as overweight can have relatively low inflammation if they're active, if they eat a nutrient-dense diet, if they don't smoke, if they have good sleep and stress management. Conversely, someone at a normal weight can still have high inflammation if they're sedentary, if they have poor diet quality, if they smoke or they live with chronic stress or illness. And the Galveston diet won't fix this necessarily, right? So this whole idea that inflammation causes weight gain is backwards.
And then our final claim about fuel refocus and this list of the types of food that will be in the diet, it just kind of sounds like a typical well-balanced diet that might be recommended for anyone, not specific to women going through menopause. I was like, yeah, that sounds like the kind of just general nutrition advice that people get as humans. So of these claims, the intermittent fasting is false. The inflammation link is questionable. And the well-balanced diet is fine. It's a well-balanced diet. So it's like 1.5 truths and a lie. So moving on from the Galveston diet, she has several free guides on her website that are for women going through menopause. So let's take a look at these before we move on to her social media presence. So the first one is called the Lab Test Checklist, and it's a guide to what lab tests you should be asking your physician for. This kind of stuff always makes me itchy because it's assuming that your doctor doesn't know what you need. It's sort of the same idea as why you see drugs advertised on TV, because you're then supposed to go to your doctor and say, hey, should I be taking Humira or whatever? Should I be taking Viagra? As opposed to thinking that your doctor will understand what your symptoms are and prescribe the appropriate medication. Again, I'm not a medical doctor, neither is Laurel. I read through the list. I don't know which one is an average test that anybody would get and which one is like off the charts weird. I did ask a doctor, but there's a few things that I want to point out. So if you have a shitty doctor, which unfortunately some people do, and especially for a population of women that have been dismissed a lot medically, their needs have been dismissed. They've been told, oh, you're going through menopause, just wear layers and get a fan. They've been underrepresented historically. So if you're one of these people who's like, well, I go to my primary care doctor, but he's very dismissive of everything that I ask for, you may need to advocate for yourself, right? And that's what I think of as kind of the goal of this list. They even give you prompts for what to say when your doctor is dismissive of certain needs. So I don't think this is a completely stupid document. I think that it may have value if, in the instance that you have a really crappy doctor. If you don't have a crappy doctor, you should probably assume that of whatever these tests are that are truly important for you, they will be doing them for you.
How about a document that helps you evaluate if you have a crappy doctor?
Yes, for sure.
Do they do these things?
Right.
Find a different doctor.
Well, and find a different doctor is an insurance problem for a lot of people. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not that easy in this country. And I think sometimes we run the risk of automatically assuming our doctor does not have the most up-to-date knowledge and information when it might well be that this list is overkill or over-testing without reasonable cause. Again, I don't know if this is a good, bad, or ugly list, but it also feels like the Peter Attia thing where everyone is supposed to get all this testing done that they may or may not be able to afford if their insurance covers it or doesn't cover it. And it might be a total waste of time and resources. It feels like optimizing testing, right? Like everyone needs to get the most tests to make sure that they have the most clear information.
Here's the thing. There are guidelines that are backed up by large bodies of evidence that inform doctors on when to order tests, for what purpose, and to figure out what. These are guidelines that are extremely well supported by evidence. Their doctors are probably basing the ordering of tests off of these guidelines that are supported by large bodies of evidence. In other words, they're saying, don't trust your doctors, instead trust me and ask for these tests to be ordered. And it's doing two things at once. One, it's causing people to mistrust their doctors and instead trust a doctor like Mary Claire Haver or Peter Attia. And two, it's creating a mistrust in science, right? Because now these evidence-based guidelines don't mean anything, clearly, because Peter Attia is saying that it's actually better to go against the guidelines and run these tests. There is something called iatrogenic harm. This is the very real possibility of harm caused by an intervention. Over-testing doesn't just create unnecessary costs, it increases the chance of what are called false positives. When the test comes back and shows that you are positive for something, but the test result is wrong. This sends you down a rabbit hole. It costs a lot of money. It burdens an already overburdened system. So while it seems like the intention is to empower patients to advocate for themselves, the flip side is that we have this culture of taking a lot of tests, searching for answers that we don't have a real good reason to have a question around. The crux of it is we should get evaluated by a doctor in person, and they should order tests based on what that evaluation discovers. Okay, when you're telling patients to ask for tests, irrespective of needing them to be based on an evaluation, you're setting this patient up to mistrust their doctor, to potentially head down this rabbit hole of iatrogenic harm. It's irresponsible. It's not following the Hippocratic Oath, right? It's ethically dubious and troubling that any doctor would do this.
Yeah. So I asked a colleague that I know who is an internist. I sent him this document and I asked him, what are your thoughts on the tests? Is this like overkill? Are these reasonable? And he wrote back, and here's what he said. This is a quote. He said, most of what she's asking for is reasonable. A few things I wouldn't necessarily chase, but generally speaking, I order almost all these tests in the appropriate clinical situation.
Bing, bing, bing.
Yeah, those last 5 words, in the appropriate clinical situation.
That's just another way of saying if I find out the person in front of me warrants that test.
Exactly. So there's no individuation with this list of tests. I think some number of them are pretty standard. Like you should be getting them anyway. But it seems from what he said that there are some that you wouldn't just right off the bat test for this without probable cause. And I think this also does play into some of that pseudo-feminist virtue signaling where it's like, I'm standing up for you and your needs as a woman. You need to get all these tests. Here you go.
And it's pseudo-feminist because it's really not good for women to be told this. The next free resource we got from her site is something called the Menopause Empowerment Guide that has the same testing and labs information, but it also has a large section on menopause hormone therapy, which she is calling by its previous name, hormone replacement therapy. And this guide provides clear information on the safety and efficacy of menopause hormone therapy, as well as the various types that exist. But then she's also plugging the Galveston diet and intermittent fasting and her supplements. And all of this is mixed in with some pretty decent advice on stress reduction and improving sleep. So it's tricky, right? It's that 2 truths and a lie, which I think comes with every single one of the criteria we named, right? There's always going to be probably more truth than lie, but the truth is like the Trojan horse that shuttles in the lie. And you can't quite see it until you realize it's ineffective, or you are poorer now, or you have some weird side effect from all the turmeric you've been, So this is such a big part of the grift. We saw this with Stacey Sims surrounding the questionable and unsupported claim with lots of generally good advice, right? And then the last free resource is called A Citizen's Guide to Menopause Advocacy. And it's all about what menopause-related bills have been passed into law, where we still need to take action, and what we can do as citizens going through menopause to help these changes take place. So this is actually a great document that goes through several action items like removing the black box warning for estrogen therapy. Sarah, can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, basically there's a black box warning on estrogen therapy, warning about like risks of cancer and other serious diseases, which is all from that WHI study that showed all these dangers that has since been completely disproven and shown that there are risks, but they're much, much lower. So the black box warning is something that is potentially just making people more afraid of using estrogen than they should be.
Right. Yeah, and this document also outlines where we are on a state level with some of these action items and what we can do to move things forward.
This document in particular is just talking about where all the legislation is around all of these different products. And so I think it actually, for the most part, is a pretty good document, because if you are the kind of person who likes to get involved in things like this and likes to write letters to state senators and governors, this is a document that's going to help you do some of that. Okay, so far There's a few things that have been problematic, right? We've got this insistence on intermittent fasting, which is problematic. We've got this lab checklist, which is problematic. We haven't yet gotten into her supplement stack, which is going to be, spoiler, problematic.
Yeah.
We're going to take a closer look at that and at her social media presence. But first, I was curious about this Mary Claire Wellness Clinic because I wanted to find out, like, oh, can you see her in person and what does it actually cost?
Yeah.
So let me tell you about what the clinic offers. The Mary Claire Wellness Clinic offers a 1 hour wellness consultation visit. Now, to be clear, this is not the same thing as your annual Well Woman physical that you should be getting. This is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
So for this 1 hour special wellness consultation, you get blood work done. You get an in-body composition scan. You get a lifetime access to the Galveston Diet online community and the Pause Life. And you get a month subscription to several of her supplements, including her fiber, creatine, and collagen supplements. So, Laurel, how do we feel about this in-body composition scan business?
Yeah. Okay, body composition. You want to know your lean to fat mass ratio, right? And so there's a couple of ways to do that. We've got the gold standard, which is, I think, called the 4-compartment model, which combines several different lab techniques for the most precise breakdown of fat to water to protein, lean mass to minerals, bone. Though it's only used in research, it's probably really fucking expensive.
Yeah.
We've got MRI and CT scans, really fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Very impractical for routine use. Then we have the DEXA scan. Okay. These are actually not that expensive. There's different tiers of quality that you can pay for, but these are the most common clinical scans to order. They're very standard. They offer pretty reliable whole body regional data. Okay. At the practical end of the spectrum are devices like InBody. They're quick, they're affordable, but they're a lot less accurate.
Yeah. I think there's one at my gym. Like when you sign up, you
Yes.
get a free in-body scan or whatever.
Yes. They're just not very accurate. And so is this giving us good information?
Not necessarily. Yeah. Okay. So you can see Dr. Mary Claire Haver herself, although the site does now say that she's not accepting new patients. So I guess you can't. Or you can see another OBGYN, or you can see the nurse practitioner. So there's actually 3 tiers of pricing based on who you're going to see. What do you think it costs to see Mary Claire Haver? What's your guess?
Okay. Well, I think I heard in a comment on someone's post that she charges $1,000.
No. So these are all just the prices for an in-person initial visit. To see Dr. Mary Claire Haver, it's a very reasonable $2,000 to get blood work, one of those things that you can also get at the gym, the in-body composition scan, a lifetime access to her online community, and a month subscription to her supplements.
Yeah.
And I guess they also will prescribe you MHT if it's appropriate for you. So if you want to see her, that's what that costs. If you want to see the other OB, it's $1,800, so that's a steal. If you want to just see the nurse practitioner, which at this point, my feeling is like, just if you're going to go do this, see the nurse practitioner. You don't need to pay for anything more than that. They're just running tests. That's only $1,500 to see the nurse practitioner.
This is such a scam.
Yep. So
God, it's such a massive scam.
It really is. So this is not exactly accessible, right? And we see this a lot with grifters, this kind of limited access based on who can afford it. Okay, let's say I'm a big Mary Claire Haver stan. I can't afford to see her in person, but I love her and I trust her. So if I buy her products, now I feel like I'm doing the right thing for myself because she said so. All right.
Yeah.
Should we talk about supplements?
First of all, I got to ask you, are you like immediately know anytime anyone's selling a supplement, Sarah? Are there supplements that you feel are like, this is okay?
The reason I become automatically no is not because the supplement itself is automatically a bad idea. I mean, the bigger picture is like the idea of a supplement suggests it's something that you're in deficit in, right? But there are things that people, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people are deficit in, right? Like a lot of people aren't getting enough fiber. A lot of people aren't getting enough vitamin D. But My issue is usually with if you are creating your own product, you're going to have jacked the price up in some god awful way where I could probably get the exact same thing for a lot less at like Costco. That's my feeling.
Yeah. I'm actually okay with people selling performance enhancing supplements. Like, I think that if it's for the purpose of performance and it's evidence based, right?
Hmm.
So don't come at me with your fucking tart cherry juice. But if you're selling creatine, if you're selling bicarb and it's not some proprietary blend where I'm not going to tell you what's in it because it's proprietary and it's like an evidence based performance enhancing substance, then I'm okay with it. But if you're providing some type of supplement that you would need an evaluation from your doctor to be able to get, you absolutely should acknowledge the fact that not everybody needs this. In fact, some people could overdo it and get really sick from taking the supplement. And then also, you're probably jacking the price, like you said.
Well, but some of her stuff is proprietary. We're going to get into that as well.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about supplements she sells. Okay. This is a large part of the pause life. We discussed this in Hot Flashes, Cold Facts. The current menopause industry is valued at $17.79 billion, people, and it's projected to get to $24 billion by 2030. Okay. I think some of it is okay as long as you've gotten some type of test to show that you're deficient. Some of it is really not okay, really, like, ever. So here are the okay ones. I think Sarah and I might disagree a little bit on these, but so fiber. Okay. Tell people to take your fiber powder. Yeah. Lots of people are deficient in fiber. Fiber is really important. However, what I'm going to say is that if you're getting your fiber from a supplement, you're not getting all the other micronutrients and macronutrients that would come along with the fiber if it were delivered to you in a food, right? So you're not eating the broccoli. You're not eating the spinach. You're not eating the legumes that have more than just fiber to offer you. People also don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. So maybe try to get your fiber from fucking fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
How about
and
that?
I will say she's got a 28-day pause challenge, which if you are able to do what she wants you to do, you may well be getting enough fiber from your fruits and vegetables. But we're going to talk about that in a second.
The second one is on the list here is it's omega-3 and then vitamin D.
Well, can I talk about vitamin D real quick? Vitamin D is something that people are deficient in, a lot of people. And in particular for women who are concerned about bone and building bone, let's say you have discovered that you need to get more calcium in your diet, and now you're eating more calcium-rich foods, which would be the way to do it rather than taking like a calcium supplement, ideally. Vitamin D actually allows your body to absorb calcium better. So this is not an outrage. There's other ones that are, to me, are more outrageous. This is not the most outrageous of the things that she could be selling. These are not like really weird supplements. Like you see these around a lot, I guess.
You do,
really
and people should be prescribed these by their doctor. Okay, definitely. I was shown to be vitamin D deficient. My doctor put me on a supplement that I bought at Costco for very little money. I took it, went back for a retest, and she was like, you need to stop taking it because now you're too high. Mm-hmm. So if you're not deficient, you don't need it. The only way you figure out if you need it or when to stop taking it is through a fucking evaluation. Same thing goes for omega-3. I don't think we need people running out and drinking fish oil. All right. A far better way to get omega-3 is to eat fish, right? There are also flax seeds. But basically, if you are taking an omega-3 and you also have cardiac conditions or you also take blood thinners, this can pose a risk to you. You don't have any good way of figuring out if you need it or could benefit from it other than a blood test. Yeah. So the fact that she's just wholesale selling this shit is harmful. It's not good.
I mean, to your point, like I live in Southern California. It is sunny most of the time here. I do wear sunscreen a lot, but I am vitamin D deficient because I am a ginger and I don't spend a lot of time outdoors. The only way that I know that I was vitamin D deficient was from a freaking blood test.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have assumed I was fine. I live in a very sunny part of the world.
Yeah. So we got to talk about turmeric.
We really do have to talk about turmeric.
Okay. I love turmeric, by the way. I made a really yummy lentil stew that had turmeric in it. Turned it up.
It's a delicious
bright shade of orange. It was so pretty. I was like, I'm getting my turmeric. I can feel the inflammation just leaving my body. Okay. Here's the claim from Mary Claire Haver's website. Quote, turmeric may help fight oxidative stress and support a healthy inflammatory response in the body. Unquote. Then there's an asterisk. Note the asterisk. Okay.
We'll talk about the asterisk in a
Right.
minute.
So first, oxidative stress sounds horrific, but it's not a disease. It's a normal physiological process your body manages all the fucking time. Free radicals are real, and chronic oxidative stress, yeah, it can contribute to disease. But the best protection against that is the boring basics. Balanced nutrition, exercise, sleep. You don't need a special capsule of turmeric to handle what your body already does well when you support your body with those basics. So yes, there is a compound, a polyphenol in turmeric called curcumin, and this has been shown to be an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory, so that part is the true part. But here's the catch. Turmeric in supplement form is not some magic bullet. It's not in supplement form very well absorbed by the gut, which is true for a lot of supplements in capsule form, right? You're much better off getting it from your food. It's going to be absorbed better by your body. You might need high doses to get the amounts that were used in studies, many of which were done on rats, is my understanding. Most trials, most evidence comes from like short-term trials on things like arthritis, not on healthy midlife women. So also, it always has to be said, like any supplement, there are almost always risks. Turmeric can interact with blood thinners and acids, certain heart medications. It can cause stomach upset. It can even cause liver injury. So for menopause specifically, I think there's one small study done in perimenopausal women suggesting turmeric reduces waist circumference and that it improves some metabolic markers, but that's not enough to recommend it. Certainly not enough to market it as this go-to supplement for all women in menopause, but that study gets cherry-picked all the time by folks who sell turmeric supplements. The bigger point is this: menopause isn't this state of chronic inflammation, okay? Perhaps if you have obesity, diabetes, other inflammatory conditions, but you're not automatically inflamed as soon as you start the menopause transition. Your hormonal status doesn't equal inflammation. So it's real questionable, the recommendation of turmeric in a capsule form for fucking anything, but it's especially problematic when it's being recommended for some type of fat loss benefit to women in menopause. And when that fat loss is, it's suggested that inflammation causes weight gain, which it doesn't.
I just want to break in and say, to be fair to Mary Claire Haver, she is not selling turmeric as a weight loss supplement. She's specifically talking about reducing inflammation. Not that that makes it any better, but I just want to be clear in what we're saying, that yes, there are people out there who are saying it's going to reduce your menopause belly, but she's not one of them.
I think she has actually
Okay.
used her platform to suggest that turmeric will reduce belly fat specifically. Okay. And there's this misconception that inflammation causes weight gain. It's the other fucking way around. And really, lifestyle causes inflammation, right? Lack of exercise, maybe not eating the right types of just generally balanced diet. I talk to people all the time who are like, I'm eating these types of foods. Like, I've gone vegetarian to reduce inflammation. I'm like, how do you know you have inflammation? Have you received a test that shows that you do? Everyone has this idea. Inflammation is like cortisol, right? Just say inflammation.
Overinflamed.
Just say cortisol. And people will think like what you're saying is legit and science-based. And whatever you tell them to do to get rid of their inflammation or cortisol will have additional resonance. It's such bullshit.
Yeah, it's some of that fiddle-faddle word salad, like buzzwords that get people all riled up.
You can go to the doctor and get tested and figure out if you have inflammation. But as soon as you ask people if they've done that, they're really uninterested in having that conversation, right? They'd much rather talk about how they're so inflamed from the foods they're eating and that's why they're gaining weight.
Yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, maybe she doesn't say that turmeric will cause you to lose weight. I do think she has, though, but she's connecting turmeric with reduction in inflammation, and then she's connecting inflammation with a cause of weight gain. Can we pause? Why the fuck are we talking about turmeric? Like literally at all. Like what a huge, stupid fucking distraction and a total waste of time. So much from Mary Claire Haver is a huge fucking stupid distraction and total waste of time. But somehow it works to get people wrapped up in her narrative and embedded in her ecosystem so they eventually buy her shit.
Yeah. Just to back up, the Oprah Menopause O Award,
Yes.
I also was like, what the fuck is that? So I went and looked it up. And basically, there's a page on Oprah's website where it's like all of it's Oprah's favorite things for menopause, basically. So it's like Oprah's favorite cooling fan, Oprah's favorite cooling sheets, Oprah's favorite cardigan, whatever. And so a bunch of different supplements made it on the list. For some reason, her turmeric made the list. You could also just buy it and cook with it, right? More deliciously. So let's talk about creatine, because people are jazzed about creatine. Now, the creatine that she sells is something called Crea Vitalis with an R. It has a registered mark, right? So this is a trademarked product. And already, again, this registration is making my eye twitch because it often means that there's going to be a study done on this particular product that shows that it's beneficial. But when we zoom out and look at larger studies on creatine in general, it might not do as much as we think. So the website says, quote, creatine monohydrate is an amino acid that has been shown to help increase energy and build muscle mass. Asterisks. Hey, that's not our first asterisk. What do we know about asterisks? Well, they lead to this, and this is at the bottom of the page. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All right, so in the list of supposed benefits of creatine on the website, it lists that it supports building lean muscle, asterisks, muscle recovery, asterisks, physical endurance, asterisks, brain health, asterisks. All right. So the claim is this specific Crea Vitalis R has the best bioavailability, which is something that is talking about the degree and the rate at which your body can actually absorb something. Okay. But what does the research show about creatine in general? Does every menopausal woman need to be taking creatine? I tried to find a study on Crea Vitalis because I would assume that this claim around bioavailability would have some sort of research to back it up. And here's what I found. And this is actually not a research study, by the way. It's called The Power of Creatine Plus Resistance Training for Healthy Aging, Enhancing Physical Vitality and Cognitive Function by Bonilla et al. From 2024. So again, this is not a research paper. It's an opinion article. And what I found the most interesting thing about it is that it had an incredibly long conflict of interest statement. Mm-hmm. And there were so many conflicts of interest. They included instances of people who were involved in the study, but they were doing other industry-sponsored research, people sitting on advocacy boards that were sponsored by Crea Vitalis, and so on and so on. And so here's what they say. In this opinion article, we advocate for the combination of creatine monohydrate supplementation and resistance training as a safe and effective non-pharmacological strategy to prevent and treat sarcopenia, right? That's muscle loss, that should be internationally recognized by health practitioners and public health organizations, right? So they're not even saying this Crea Vitalis specifically. They're just talking about using creatine. But really importantly, because this is not something that Haver highlights, which is that even though all of these authors are sponsored out the yin-yang, they are advocating for creatine plus resistance training. They're not advocating for just taking it without also doing resistance training. Now, nowhere on the page selling creatine does Mary Claire Haver talk about the resistance training requirement, like at all.
Of course not.
I wasn't able to find a research study that specifically tested Crea Vitalis. But if we step back and look at the research in general on creatine, here's what we know. So women have lower synthesis of creatine, meaning we make less, right? But that's likely because the creatine in your body is synthesized in your muscles, and women tend to have less muscles on their body than men, which is why there's this argument that we need to supplement. But it actually turns out that our storage of creatine is really good. So the idea that we're lacking in creatine exists because we're comparing it to men's synthesis and storage. But since this is something that is relative to muscle mass, this doesn't automatically mean that we're inherently too low in creatine. We've talked a lot about creatine in some of our other menopause episodes, so you can check out what we've said about it there. But essentially, It's problematic that she's selling it without saying the part that for it to have any effect, you also need to be doing resistance
It's
training.
useless without resistance training. And if you're
Yeah.
resistance training, taking creatine is the difference between getting like 11 reps versus 10. It's not going to be
No.
body composition completely altering, right?
Right. You're not going to suddenly Hulk out
No,
from taking it.
no, no.
Do you want to talk about the brain health?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of jumping the gun on the brain health claims around creatine from what I have considered to be like trusted sources and also people like Mary Claire Haver. When you look at the data from a specific population and you hypothesize that it has meaning to the general population, you're grifting. Okay. And so what will often happen is that people will look at studies done on people with brain injuries. We can cautiously say that maybe creatine is helping them heal their brains, or people with cognitive decline or disorders of some kind. I'm not exactly sure, but basically these are special populations. And we're cautiously optimistic that maybe creatine is playing a positive role, right? It's biologically plausible that it could be helping healthy populations as well, but we don't have any studies showing that. So when you have someone like Mary Claire Haver pushing creatine for brain health to her audience of probably majority of whom are a healthy population of women in perimenopause or menopause, it's grift because this is not supported by evidence. It's not supported by research. You would need to look at that specific population and then see if creatine showed improvement to some marker of cognitive function to be able to say that it does. Currently, that
instead
doesn't
they're
exist.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're still going to say it's good for your brain.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get into the one that really pisses me off, which is that she's selling collagen for your wrinkles and for your cellulite. In my notes for this, I wrote, kindly go fuck yourself, because this really pisses me off. This is no longer even under the umbrella of claiming supplements that you need for menopause symptoms, unless we're starting to call wrinkles and cellulite a symptom of something, which they are not. Wrinkles are a symptom of living on a planet that is warmed by a sun. Period. Women have been bullied about their wrinkles and their cellulite for decades and sold billions of dollars of products like this to try to change the appearance of what is a naturally occurring non-event called normal female physiology. It's not ugly. It's not wrong. And I'm fucking sick to death of this shit. I really am.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is a repeat of every other fad that we've seen across the decades that has drained women's wallets and left them anxious. But collagen is probably one of the more ridiculous ones. So in the 1970s, we had royal jelly and bee pollen as hormone balancers. Sounds ridiculous, right? In the 1980s, we had wild yam cream as a natural progesterone. Sounds silly, doesn't it? In the 1990s, we had fen-phen diet pills and soy isoflavones as nature's HRT. Kind of ridiculous sounding, right? In the 2000s, we had detox teas and colon cleanses and slim fast shakes that would make the fat disappear off our body. Total crock of shit, right? In 2010, we had Garcinia, Cambogia, raspberry ketones, biotin, and probiotics to help with our fucked up guts, right? And in the 2020s, now we have collagen powders, we have turmeric, we have hormone balancing stacks and adaptogens, right? Mushrooms. And, guess what? In 2030, we're going to look back and go, what a crock of shit. But we're currently all embroiled in our own gullibility and believing all of this shit. So we've got people with fancy credentials on these platforms blasting these myths to millions using all these fear-based hooks. Your hormones are fucked. You're got cellulite. We got to erase that. We got to fix how your belly looks. Sarah, why do we keep falling for this shit?
I don't know, but it drives me crazy. It also is frustrating to me that for women who are entering an age where ideally we're giving less of a shit about a lot of this stuff. I have found that a lot of myself and my friends, as we are in our late 40s, 50s, right, as we're getting older, we're trying at least to be less sucked into this idea of maintain your beauty at any cost, right? And we're starting to not care about that stuff so much, hopefully. And so I find it even more irritating that this is being marketed to women at a time in their life. And I mean, never should you be spending all of your time and attention on your appearance, but it's very easy to do as a younger woman, right? Because our society emphasizes the value of youth and the value for women of their beauty. And here we are, we're at a time where you're turning into a crone. All that estrogen is taking your beauty away, but don't worry. You can take this collagen supplement and it's going to help your skin and your fucking cellulite. Jesus Christ. So she sells something called skin and bone collagen. And the claim is bioactive collagen peptides, again, with a registration mark, specifically formulated to support your skin, hair, nail, and bones. Asterisk. We know about the asterisk. Okay. Are you ready for this? A 30-day supply is $70.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That is off the scale of ridiculous. I expect a lot of these things to be maybe like $35, $40, something like that for 30 days. $70.
Okay. A fucking 30-day supply of skin and bone collagen for $70. You could buy an entire month's worth of actual high quality protein for that. I think many people think because when you buy collagen powder, it shows you that it has a certain amount of grams of protein per serving. That they're like, well, okay, the collagen, maybe it's not doing as much for my skin, but hey, it's more protein, right? Not all protein is created equal. We've got animal proteins like whey and casein and eggs and meat. These are considered high quality proteins. They provide all the essential amino acids in the right proportions to support muscle growth and repair. We also have high quality plant proteins that can do a lot of the same things. And if you're eating a balanced diet, you're probably going to have a complete protein profile in your diet. But collagen, on the other hand, isn't in the same league as these other forms of protein. It's missing a key amino acid, which is tryptophan. So your body can't use collagen to build muscle the way it can with animal or plant proteins. So you think, okay, it's not helping my skin, my hair, my nails, my fucking cellulite. At least it's giving me protein. No, it's not. It's not giving you the protein you actually need.
Yeah.
It's just a big ass waste of money.
It is. Full disclosure, I'm a former collagen in my coffee user. This was at a point where like I was post-cancer, my hair and my nails were like looking shit because that's what the chemo did. And I was like, all right, well, this is going to help my hair and my nails. And I don't think it did, but I liked how it made my coffee creamier, honestly. But then I was like, oh, I could also just use half and half. So that's what I do instead.
Hey, I'm going to attest to the fact that the collagen in the coffee was actually pretty good when I visited you. I was like,
it's not gross. Nice. It's not gross. Okay. But is it an expensive waste of time? Probably. Mm-hmm. So Mary Cohaver did a social media post about this collagen where she stood in front of, when people stand in front of a study and point at it. I've done that. But she did it on 3 different studies that she flashed really quickly. So I took screenshots so that I could look up these studies. Before we get to her claims about what collagen can do for your wrinkles and your cellulite and your bones, let's actually look at the prevailing evidence around collagen and what it can or cannot do, because this is very interesting, I think. And it gets into that question of funding sources. So this is a study called Effects of Collagen Supplements on Skin Aging, a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized control trials by Myung and Park from 2025. So this is some brand new evidence. I'm just going to read you the results because I think this is interesting. So this is a quote. A total of 23 RCTs, randomized control trials, with 1,474 participants were analyzed. In a meta-analysis of all 23 RCTs, collagen supplements significantly improved skin hydration, elasticity, and wrinkles. However, in the subgroup meta-analysis, so when they separated out by funding source, studies not receiving funding from pharmaceutical companies revealed no effect of collagen supplements for improving skin hydration, elasticity, and wrinkles, while those receiving funding from pharmaceutical companies did show significant effects. Similarly, high-quality studies revealed no significant effect in all categories. Wow. Right? So that should not make you feel good about it. So let's take a real quick look at the studies that she cited. The first one is called Dietary Supplementation with Specific Collagen Peptides Has a Body Mass Index Dependent Beneficial Effect on Cellulite Morphology. Okay. And the other one is called Oral Intake of Specific Bioactive Collagen Peptides Reduces Skin Wrinkles and Increases Dermal Matrix Synthesis. So these two are by the same group of authors, and both of them are studying a registered and patented product called Verisol, registered, which is in her collagen product, right? She uses this stuff called Verisol.
Mm-hmm.
The product claims to reduce wrinkles and cellulite. And I don't think these were RCTs. Why are we talking about cellulite as if it is something other than a naturally occurring phenomenon in women's bodies that is not a problem? It's not a pathology. It's not a disease state. It's not a marker for future cardiovascular health. It just exists.
Mm-hmm.
Why is a medical doctor pushing a product for wrinkles and cellulite? It just pisses me off so much.
Dollar bills.
Okay, and then the last study that she cites is called Specific Bioactive Collagen Peptides in Osteoporosis and Osteopenia, Long-Term Observation in Postmenopausal Women. And this one claims to improve bone density, but it's also testing a registered and patented product called Fortibone R, which is also in her collagen product, right? So she's got this Fortibone and this Verisol. So all three of these studies are of products that a company called AlgaeCal makes.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yes. And if you go to their website, it's a very impressive array of stats and research claims. But when I scanned the list of studies, and to be fair, I didn't go into all of the studies because I was starting to go totally cross-eyed at this point. But when I scanned the list of studies, a lot of them were done by the same people, which to me at least does not build confidence.
Mm-mm.
Like the idea in peer review is that other scientists come in and they review your work or they replicate your work and they get the same answers. Not that you put out a body of tests on the same thing that all show the same thing. AlgaeCal separately, I've been seeing more and more instances of it coming up in social media. We were approached by someone from AlgaeCal. I think AlgaeCal is kind of sus.
We do know some things about it, but we're not ready to talk about it yet.
Yeah, so going to be an episode about AlgaeCal in the future for sure. The bottom line is stay skeptical out there, people.
Yeah. We have a t-shirt in our store. Merch. Stay skeptical. All right, last thing we got to talk about here is Mary Claire Haver's apparent obsession with the weighted vest. So if you follow her on social media, she never takes that fucking thing off.
She really never does.
She wears it all the time. When she's just sitting in front of her table talking to us, she's wearing her weighted vest. When she's fucking doing tricep exercises lying on her back, she's wearing a weighted vest. When she's doing assisted pull-ups, she's wearing a weighted vest, which is quite possibly the most ridiculous time to wear a weighted vest. Yeah, so Sarah.
I wrote this one thing as a joke, sorry.
Having sex. No, I don't think she posts. I don't think she's on AnyFans. Is it called AnyFans? I don't know. OnlyFans.
But now that's given me an idea. Maybe I should start an OnlyFans page where I'm just wearing a weighted vest all the time. And then people write in and ask me to do activities. Will you paint your toenails while you're wearing a weighted vest? Sure.
So Sarah did a whole episode about weighted vests and bone density, which we will link in the show notes. Essentially, in order to make a weighted vest impact your bone density, you have to wear it and do exercise formats that improve bone density, like engage in impact training or do resistance exercises that load your hips and spine, like lunges, squats, or...
All right, I just want to clarify. You have to do that for a year. You can't just do a couple of them and be like, my bones are better. The research shows you got to do those exercises for a year.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even test to see if someone's improved their bone density unless they've been doing an exercise intervention for at least 8 months, right? Or you have to wear for 8 to 10 hours a day. Wait, so there are studies showing improvements to bone density from wearing a weighted vest for 8 to 10 hours a day, or was that improvements to weight loss?
So no, you can wear it and just like walk around and live your life, but you have to wear it 8 to 10 hours a day. Okay. And there are a lot of instances of people saying like, well, it's giving me back pain. It's like, yeah, no shit.
Or it's making my fucking body sweaty. Walking or hiking with a weighted vest a few times a week is not going to improve your bones. So check out the episode. But Mary Claire Haver isn't going to let go of her Amazon affiliate code for a weighted vest that quickly. And we've also heard she's developing one for women that doesn't smash your boobs. But we haven't seen any official confirmation of this. So here's a blog on our website called What is a Weighted Vest and Why Should I Use One? And we're not going to read you the whole thing because we respect and appreciate you. But there are a few choice passages that we're going to highlight. Of note, The blog has no cited author, so we have no idea who wrote this. Overall, it cites a lot of the research around bone density and muscle strength, but only vaguely describes using the weighted vest during walking, resistance training, or household chores. It doesn't provide any parameters around how much time you need to wear it or what kind of exercises you need to do. It does go into detail around how to select the right vest and what weight it should be, but I'm assuming those are very general recommendations. So here's a quote from the website. Quote, adding a weighted vest into your fitness routine and activities is easy. You may choose to strap it on for your usual walk or runs, making your cardio more challenging, or you can wear it during your warm-up, stretching, or cool down to add a little extra effort. But the real magic happens during strength training. Exercises like squat, lunges, and upper body moves become more intense, pushing your muscles further. One study even had participants wear vests while jumping or using a vibrating machine. The beauty is even low-impact activities like yoga or Pilates benefit from the added resistance. A weighted vest can ultimately improve your overall strength and stability. I haven't stepped foot in a yoga class in a while, but I have no doubt people are wearing weighted vests in yoga.
I would love to see it.
Well,
I would love to see someone putting on a weighted vest and then lying down on a reformer.
I'm not against the idea of wearing a weighted vest in yoga. I mean, that would be hypocritical of me because I taught an entire training called yoga with resistance bands. But if your goal is to improve bone density, or your goal is to lose weight, or your goal is to improve muscle mass, the weighted vest matters a lot less than the exercise format you're engaged in, and a lot less than whether or not the load you're applying to your body is sufficient to make a change, which is going to depend on your current level of strength. Right? Again, nowhere in this article do they talk about how much time, right? Recall 8 to 10 hours a day, or how long you need to be doing the resistance training with it on, or nowhere in the article did they talk about how to use RPE and RIR to know how many reps you need to do of an exercise wearing your weighted vest, right? There's none of this education provided. There's just a link to the Amazon store, right? Because that's the whole point, is to sell you the vest, not necessarily to educate you.
I will say her Amazon store is extensive, and she really sells everything from running shorts to blenders to the weighted vests.
Her pajamas.
So the last thing I want to mention quickly, because this is just really kind of bananas, she has something called the 28-day Pause Strong Challenge to, quote, combat the symptoms of menopause. And as far as these kind of like 28-day challenge things goes, it's not terrible, except there's one single bonkers part. So the first two things are like, make sure you're eating enough protein, make sure you're eating enough fiber. No problem with that. The third one is journal daily. Write down your feelings about what's going on. Sure, no problem. As general guidelines go, these are fine, right? And then the fifth one is exercise 5 days a week, and they specify walking and weightlifting. I mean, there's not really parameters around that or anything, but again, these as general guidelines go, these are not terrible.
For literally anyone at any age.
Yeah, I mean, it's not specific to menopause. No, not at all. This is like, do you want to be healthy? Try to do these things. But the crazy one was number 4.
Okay.
Because number 4 was consume 30 plants each week. And at first I thought this meant like 30 servings of plants, which makes sense and is actually in line with the RDA, the recommendations, right?
Yeah.
But no, it then goes on to say, throughout the course of the week, work to consume a variety of plant-based foods so that by the end of the week, you've eaten 30 different plants over the course of the week. So apart from the fact that that sentence needs some serious editing, 30 different plants a week? I mean, I eat, generally speaking, a fair amount of fruit and veg, but I don't think I eat 30 different
Right. I wonder what that 30
plants
is based off of. I think it's just a made-up
it doesn't
number.
seem to be based
Sounds
off
good.
of
It's
anything.
like Whole 30, right? 30 is a popular number associated with dieting.
Right. It's like, I mean, but it's a 28-day challenge. It's not a 30-day. It's just so weird. There's no reference for what this is based off of. I don't think it's based off of anything. And it also, to go back to the Stacey Sims and her cherry juice and her purple potatoes, this is starting to feel like purple potato territory, like lifestyle aspirational bullshit.
Right.
The average American woman is likely not getting enough fruit and veg in general.
Right.
Right. Now we're asking her to go out and pay for 30 different plants every week. The fuck? Laurel, do you have thoughts about this?
I mean, it's creating this ridiculous, hard to achieve parameter.
Yeah.
It's like complicating advice that could be so much more simple.
Yeah.
It's creating a barrier. Now you have to have access to 30 different plants.
Mhm.
You
Got
have
the
to
money.
like 30 different plants.
Yeah.
Right? This is like a whole technique where we're going to take some simple advice and we're just going to layer it with a ton of complexity to make it really hard and to make you feel like a total fucking failure when you can't do it. You not only are you not getting enough fruits and veg, but as soon as you start getting enough fruits and veg, you're still not doing it right because you're not getting 30 different kinds.
I mean, I tried seriously. I was like, okay, wait, how many do I get? And I started trying to like count up
Yeah.
the average number. And then I got into like different types of lettuce. I was like really, really trying. And I think I got somewhere between like 15 to 20. And I
I'd
eat
have
a
so many
pretty
questions too. I'd be like, is
very
corn a vegetable? Is potatoes a
right,
vegetable?
exactly.
What about
are we including
the dried
potatoes?
oregano I put in my spaghetti? Is that a
Right.
fucking vegetable?
Is a piece of basil on top of my pizza,
Right.
does
Is
that count
that a
as a
vegetable?
vegetable?
It's just so stupid. It's
It
focusing
really
on the
is.
wrong thing, right? It's terrible.
All right. Before we start flipping tables over here, let's run our Dr. Mary Claire Haver through the griftometer.
Let's do it.
So the first one is, do you even know what the real problem is, bro?
If I were to say, like, what is the real problem? First of all, it's people like Mary Claire Haver. She's just a spawn of capitalism. So maybe the real problem is capitalism, but that almost also seems too simple, right? Maybe the real problem is human nature. I
Well,
don't
the
know
question is,
where the real fucking problem starts, but it's not my fucking turmeric, lack of turmeric. It's none of the things she's saying the problem is. She is the queen of criteria number one. Her whole deal is telling you have a lot of problems you don't have.
yeah.
And failing
Yeah.
to tell you that she's your number one problem in this moment.
Okay, so we've got to score her out of 0 to 5. 0 would be like she does not exhibit these properties, and 5 would be she highly exhibits these properties.
Okay, she's a 5.
She's a 5?
A fucking
Okay,
5.
let me write this
If
down
she could be a
somewhere.
6, she'd be a 6.
Okay. The next category is called Everyone Needs This.
She's a
Yeah,
5
she's a
because
5.
I don't think I've ever heard her qualify any
Qualify.
of her.
Well, actually, I'll take that back. She qualifies menopause hormone therapy. She does
Okay.
say, like, you
Thank
need to
God.
talk to your doctor. Yeah, seriously. But everything else is like, make my smoothie with all of my supplements in it. And there's no qualification around who needs what.
Yeah,
in terms of that.
not in her supplements either, I don't think, right?
No,
I think
it's
she gets
not
a fucking 5.
Okay. The next one, appearance assassinators.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
She is saying, take my supplement for your
Wrinkles,
skin and your cellulite.
belly fat. I'm
Yeah.
almost certain there's a turmeric connected to belly fat claim in there.
Yeah.
I'm going to give her a 5.
Yeah, I think she's a 5 on that one as well. All right, fiddle faddle, which is just using buzzwords like menno belly and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we say fiddle faddle is similar to mechanism theater from the Stacey Sims episode,
Yeah.
I don't think she scores terribly high on this.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
She tries to use a lot of science to back things up, but that's not this category.
I think her wide appeal is because she avoids the fiddle faddle. Actually, she's attracting the general population more broadly because I think she makes the language much more accessible, actually.
Yeah, I think that's right. So what do we want to score her?
I'd give her a 2.
2? Okay. All right. Next up, microscope of practice.
Well,
she's an OBGYN. She does have, what is that bullshit? Hang on. She has some medical culinary something.
It's a certification, Sarah. It means
she got a food
jackal.
certification.
Hang on. Jackal.
She's hang on, because I did look it up. A certified culinary medical specialist.
Okay.
It just means that she went through this one course.
Fine. You know what? Because she's a doctor, because she's an MD, her scope of practice is quite large, right? Like, I think it's fine that she gives some general nutrition advice. The problem with her is that she propagates a lot of unsupported, unsubstantiated myths and claims, that she miseducates, that she espouses a lot of pseudoscience. Sure, you've got a large scope of practice. You're a medical doctor. You're an expert in female physiology as an OBGYN, no question. But you choose to use all of that education and all that good information and all that ability to, like, draw from solid evidence and you don't. I mean, I wish we could rename this like Hippocratic Oath hypocrite or something like that.
We could call it hypocritical oath.
Hypocritical oath. She gets a fucking 5.
Okay. Next one is just, do they sell supplements? Unfair advantage.
Yes. She's a 5.
She sells supplements. She gets a 5.
It's a lot.
And then the last one, she's going to get close to 100% score. But
Yeah.
anyway, Army Hammer. Does she have an army full of people that
Yeah,
will come
she
after
does.
you? Yes, she sure does.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to do the math. Let's see. She gets a 94%.
Yeah.
Percent.
She gets just on the edge
Grifter.
of an A.
So that,
Grifter.
I gotta say, that feels accurate. But let's talk about our sort of like summary. Do you have like summary thoughts about Mary Claire Haver?
I think we wanted to get into some of the cultural nuances that we see circulating around her and her Army Hammer, right? I think that she leans toward appealing toward more conservative leaning women based on the Army Hammer.
Yeah.
And women who perhaps have never really thought of themselves as feminist until someone like Mary Claire Haver starts ringing the pseudo-feminist virtue signaling bell and inspiring them to have some kind of feelings or outrage or really justifying some of their justified misgivings around how they've been treated in the medical system, right? Like pointing out the fact that there hasn't been good medical practice for women experiencing the symptoms of menopause, right? And that there has been a lot of dismissal happening in doctors' offices, and there has been a downplaying of the symptoms, which can sometimes be debilitating. And so she's using that truth to then lure them into her ecosystem and to convert them to customers. These women that follow her, they strike me as having been for their entire life really unbeknownst to them trapped in a patriarchy. And Mary Claire Haver appears to be showing them an exit, but it's a false exit, right? It's one that sells this kind of souped up form of female liberation that really just leads them down a dark hallway right back into the patriarchy.
Yeah. Your point about it appealing to more conservative women, I feel like is really spot on, because so much of the critique that we got from her followers was about our tone. And there was so much tone policing. They really didn't like that I said motherfucker. And I was like, but that's not the point. And also that's just a strategy to try to like shift attention from what I'm saying. But yeah, they didn't like the tone. They didn't like that we were like, quote unquote, bashing another woman.
But some of them were perfectly happy saying stuff about the dark circles under my eyes. And one woman was like, based on the look of the dark circles under your eyes, you should be on hormone replacement therapy.
And exactly. And they're more than happy to come to her defense as a woman, but they're also more than happy to pick you apart as a woman.
Exactly.
You know, the through line is not there.
It's real contradictory. Yeah.
Yeah. There's just really a sense of everybody needs to be nice to her. And I'm like, why? I think if you get to the point when you have 7 million followers, you're going to attract a lot more attention from people like me and Laurel. And you can't get away with shit for that reason.
It's also decidedly anti-woman to say that because a person is a woman, they are above critique. They are above critical evaluation.
Yes.
Because what that is basically infantilization. It's saying that women are not capable of standing up to the test of logic and rational thought and evidence, and basically saying because they're a woman, they get a pass on the intellect front. They get a pass on being honest, on having integrity. It's like saying women, because they're women, we should be softer on them somehow.
Right.
It's like, no, actually. Until we start taking women seriously, they're never actually going to be equal with men.
Right.
So if men can take men seriously, women can take women seriously. Men can take women seriously. Just like women feel very okay with taking, for example, someone online who's a guy who's saying bullshit about women. They're fine with women taking that guy down. Well, what if there's a woman online saying bullshit about women? Right. It's not actually feminist to say we can't critique that because she's a woman, but it seems to be just another way of saying women are too fragile. Women are too weak. Women can't play by the same rules. They don't have to because they're women. It's like, no.
Right. It's a very, to your point, infantilizing. And they're there. She's trying her hardest. We wouldn't hold her up to the same criteria because she's
Exactly.
just a woman.
Right. Until we can apply the same rules to women as we do to men, we are upholding the patriarchy.
Yep.
Strength and impact training are two of the most effective ways we have to improve bone density and reduce osteoporosis risk.
Our 6-month live online course, Live for Longevity, combines both.
We use barbells to train progressive strength through all intensity levels, and we teach a progressive introduction to impact training with options for what your body needs.
With Live for Longevity, you get a whole body program that doesn't just go through the motions, but actually teaches you how to strength train so that you gain a new skill for life.
Over 200 women in their 30s to 80s have already taken the course, building strength, confidence, and resilience within the comfort of their homes.
Want to try it out? Join us on October 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific for a free sample workout from the program.
If you already have a barbell, bring it along. If not, bring your weights and a dowel or broomstick. You'll get live coaching and technique feedback if you'd like, or keep your camera off if you prefer.
Can't make it live? We'll send you the replay.
Click the link in our show notes to sign up.
Okay, so we are going to switch our focus now away from Dr. Haver and onto another Meno grifter. And something to note, there is a group of these sort of doctor/influencers who've started to call themselves the Menopause. And it includes both of these women. I'm not exactly sure who all is in the Menopause, but anyway, we're going to talk about Dr. Vonda Wright, who is our next person of interest. Now, if you go to her website, I will say right off the bat, Dr. Wright is impressive. She doesn't have just one About Me section. She has 4 About Me sections based on what category about her that you are interested in. So here's what they say.
All right. So as an author, Dr. Vonda Wright is an accomplished author whose work provides practical, science-backed guidance for anyone seeking to live an active, vibrant, and healthy life at every age. With her unique ability to translate her insights as a surgeon and a woman into relatable and actionable advice, her books serve as essential guides for optimizing health and unlocking the full potential of longevity. Then Vonda as speaker and consultant. Dr. Vonda Wright is a sought-after speaker and consultant whose expertise lies at the intersection of active aging, sports medicine, and innovations in women's health. With more than 20 years of experience as a leading orthopedic surgeon and health advocate, Dr. Wright captivates audiences with her ability to translate complex medical concepts into engaging, actionable insights.
Okay, and then the next one is as a researcher. Dr. Vonda Wright is also a researcher whose work synthesizes the fields of sports medicine, the science of aging, and the nuances of women's health. Her innovative approaches and history of groundbreaking research continue to redefine how we view human performance, healing, and longevity. With a steadfast commitment to both clinical outcomes and practical applications, Dr. Wright is shaping the future of sports medicine, women's health, and active aging. And then as a surgeon, alongside her career as an educator and consultant, Dr. Vonda Wright is a double board certified orthopedic surgeon and researcher dedicated to enhancing the lives of her patients through innovative care, expert techniques, and unparalleled compassion. Unparalleled. Specializing in treating athletes and active individuals of all skill levels, Dr. Wright helps her patients achieve optimal mobility and performance at every stage of life. Her practice combines cutting-edge technology, minimally invasive approaches, and evidence-based solutions to treat a wide range of orthopedic conditions. She also has a podcast called Hot for Your Health. And of note, she's written 6 books, which I think is pretty impressive. Now, I first became aware of her on social media because she made this like super viral post where you see her and she's literally just walking out of the surgery, like the operating theater. And she's talking about the woman who she was just operating on and how she had really weak bones and like warning us / scaring us that we don't want to end up in that situation.
So Dr. Vonda Wright's very pro staying strong. She's pro healthy bones. She's pro healthy minds. And she emphasizes the importance of continuing to exercise into our middle old and old age. But it seems like as of late, she is getting more into selling products and supplements on social media. So we're going to dive into that. But she's very big on promoting exercise and movement as the most important thing that a lot of people aren't doing. And she says things like lean muscle mass will save your life and that there is nothing more metabolically important. We largely agree
Yeah.
with all of her messaging around staying active. We'll talk about how we feel her exercise prescription can skew overly specific, similar to
Yeah.
other people we've covered.
Yeah. In essence, and this is in my opinion, and I guess maybe this is a bit of a spoiler, I don't think Vonda Wright is as bad as Mary Claire Haver
No,
as a grifter.
not at all.
When I was going through her website, I didn't really find anything problematic to talk about. The thing that I really don't like is one of her books is called Younger in 8 Weeks, which I just kind of hate that. Because again, it's this whole, it's better if you're younger, which you can't do because everyone's aging every second of the day. And it has this tagline that claims that it can renew your DNA and reverse signs of aging. But weirdly, this book seems to be out of print. I don't think it's maybe her most recent work. Do you agree, Laurel, that she's not as bad as Haver?
Oh, 100%. She is very much more leaning toward using exercise for anti-aging. And that actually is true if we consider
Yeah.
it to be a loss of functionality, a loss of capacity. Like she's absolutely right that exercise is anti-aging. But I think what we're starting to see from her is that she is starting to shill for skin cream companies and she's starting to lean into supplements and probably overhyping those. And I think it's probably only going to head more in that direction as her follow grows. So it's something that I think you should keep your eyes open for if you do follow Dr. Wright and find some of the things that she says helpful, because I think a lot of what she's saying is helpful.
Yeah.
Also notice the things that she might be starting to say more and more and more that are potentially misleading, not as helpful, even veering toward harmful, because there's a lot of financial incentive for her to start to push things that aren't necessary, that aren't evidence-based, that aren't necessarily even safe, fullest sense of the word,
Yeah.
because how much monetary gain she has to benefit from doing that. Because I want to be fair in the sense of like really being transparent about my take on her, which is that I think of everyone we've covered critically, she's probably in the best shape.
Okay, so her most recent book is called Unbreakable. And in it, she details something that she has come up with, which is the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. And she has a paper that she wrote about it. So let's look at that paper. So the paper is called The Musculoskeletal Syndrome of Menopause. It's by Wright et al. From 2024.
Okay, this is a review paper in which Wright introduces this phrase that she coined to cover the musculoskeletal symptoms that women experience during menopause, which she says are more overlooked than the other symptoms like hot flashes, brain fog, and sleep disturbances. She states that 70% of menopausal women will experience musculoskeletal symptoms, 25% of whom will have severe symptoms, and 40% of whom will have no structural findings. The paper states that these symptoms include, but are not limited to, musculoskeletal pain, arthralgia, which is joint pain, loss of lean muscle mass, loss of bone density with increased risk of resultant fracture, increased tendon and ligament injury, adhesive capsulitis, frozen shoulder, and cartilage matrix fragility with the progression of osteoarthritis.
So the claim that this paper is making is that all of these symptoms are from the drop in estrogen that takes place during the menopause transition. And estrogen has its finger in many pies in your body, so to speak. And so, yes, the drop in estrogen could be the reason for having these symptoms. I think the challenge really arises in determining if estrogen loss is the sole cause or if some of these symptoms are simply related to the aging process that all of us are going through. The paper also discusses how estrogen is a powerful anti inflammatory and how menopause hormone therapy can be used to treat the joint pain symptoms that women have during the menopause transition. Jen Gunter agrees with this in her writings as well. It also discusses how in animal models, when they remove estrogen, the animals had a decrease in muscle mass and strength, but then goes on to say that aging is also a cause of sarcopenia, right? Loss of muscle mass, which we also talked about in our Hot Flashes, Cold Facts episode. There is evidence that shows that the rate of muscle loss does not increase over the menopause transition time period. And there's also evidence that adding hormones back in does not magically increase muscle mass again. And then they also cite animal models where they have removed the ovaries and shown a decrease in satellite cells, which is a type of stem cell that's located on the muscle fibers and that's activated whenever there's an injury in order to help regenerate the fibers. Estradiol, which is a form of estrogen, has been shown to be involved in the activation and proliferation of these cells. But again, these are animal models, which, depending on how picky you are about your evidence, you may not feel that they can be extrapolated to human models. For example, Stacy Sims feels that you can extrapolate it, but Lauren Colenso-Semple feels that you cannot. But they do use this as another reason for promoting menopause hormone therapy.
Yeah. And it also discusses how osteoporosis and osteopenia can be effectively treated with menopause hormone therapy, citing several studies, including one that is a meta-analysis from 2002 that shows the efficacy of menopause hormone therapy on bone mineral density and reducing fractures. But we know that there are a lot of risk of fractures outside of estrogen that play into osteoporosis and osteopenia, including genetics and how much bone you banked in your earlier years and general physical activity and nutrition, as well as risk factors like smoking, drinking, excessively low BMI, family history, steroid use, and more. We cited Jen Gunter on this in our Hot Flashes Cold Facts episode as far as what symptoms can be improved with menopause hormone therapy. And she says that menopause hormone therapy for osteoporosis should only be for those at a high risk and should not be the first line of defense against osteoporosis. She also says that you can use it for joint or muscle pain, but that it won't do anything for maintaining muscle mass. The paper summarizes by talking about the use of vitamin D, magnesium, and K2, as well as the importance of resistance training. But in essence, the big push seems to be to encourage clinicians to consider menopause hormone therapy for all of these symptoms. As I'm thinking more about this, what most people take for joint-related pain is they see a physical therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get an eval, they get some work to do, some movement to do, and then they might take some painkillers,
Right.
right? And this idea that joint pain being the sole reason you would prescribe someone menopause hormone therapy sounds a little bit dubious, as there are other things that can be done about stuff like joint pain, right? So
Yes.
that's just a thought that I had.
Yeah. So Laurel and I are not medical doctors, if you didn't know. So it's not really appropriate for us to decide if there is sufficient evidence to warrant this new category called musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. However, going over the evidence, it does not appear that it is perhaps as open and shut as they are claiming. But if this is ultimately going to get more doctors to take women's needs seriously and to consider menopause hormone therapy as an intervention where appropriate, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I am very skeptical of anyone on the internet pushing for menopause hormone therapy that isn't an OBGYN. She's an orthopedic surgeon. Her pushing menopause hormone therapy in a kind of specific way as a way to treat something that is within her wheelhouse, I guess I would want a second and third and fourth and fifth opinion on that. And I would most certainly go and talk to my OBGYN about it. She has a lot of posts that seem very like pro hormone therapy, which we see from the menopause in general. And I think a charitable interpretation of that very enthusiastic push for women to seek out hormones is that it's blowback, or it's rather a response to what was earlier this idea that hormone therapy was dangerous, like menopause hormone therapy was dangerous because it would automatically cause breast cancer, or there was a high risk of breast cancer, which was bordering on a fraudulent claim. If you look at the Women's Health Initiative story and how the data was mined in a particular way to create a massive scare overnight, women were taken off their hormones and experienced, many of them, debilitating symptoms as a result. And like a lot of what we're seeing now with this very pro hormone, people are like, of course I'm on hormones, like hormones and hormones and hormones, and let's all be on hormones. I feel like is that example of the pendulum swinging from one side where hormones are dangerous and they cause breast cancer, all the way over to this other side where like everybody should be taking hormones for every little symptom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And that there is definitely a big negative trade-off for saying that hormones are dangerous and cause breast cancer, but there might also be a big negative trade-off for pushing too many people to take hormones. The more cautious approach, I think the more responsible and ethical approach as a medical doctor wouldn't be to be so enthusiastic about hormones, which it appears that Vonda just expresses very little caution around whether or not they're appropriate for everyone. Like, I don't think I've ever heard her say anything along the lines of, consult your doctor, this might not be right for you. Maybe I just am not familiar enough with her work. Maybe you've encountered this cautionary message, but I hear it all the time from Jen Gunter, right? Jen Gunter will frequently put out posts, right? Again, in response to the menopause. No, hormones are not for everyone. This is when I would prescribe it as an OBGYN. Talk to your doctor. In one of Vonda Wright's posts, she's like, millennials, where are you getting your hormones? And then she's like talking up this company that provides menopause hormone therapy, right? And I'm like, whoa, like that really kind of creeps me out. You know, I'm like, what kickback are you getting for this? What kind of deal do you have with these people?
Yeah.
Do you really have our best interests at heart? Like, you are unparalleled in your compassion, apparently. So where's the concern for our safety?
Yeah.
Where's the nuance?
Right.
I'm not seeing it. And that strikes me as somewhat reckless as a doctor.
Yeah. I think the reality is if you go to your doctor and you say, I should be on menopause hormone therapy, they're going to look at you as a whole person and determine whether or not that's true. So, but there are these companies now, like Alloy is one, where you can just go online and it's that same thing where it's some random doctor that you tell them your symptoms and they ask probably some basic questions that would rule you out. And then you can get it through them. You don't have to go through your primary care doctor who knows you and your medical history much better.
Who you would then follow up with about how it's working and other symptoms you might be having and who might know your blood tests and your blood work.
It's kind of like what's happened with the GLP-1s where first you had to like go to your doctor for it. And now you can just like get it online.
They're pushing GLP-1 for people who don't qualify and getting kickback for enrolling people or selling. And it strikes me as like menopause hormone therapy is kind of either in that same direction or headed in that same direction. And it's just very like, dude, you're telling people to put hormones in their body. That's a significant piece of advice there.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's just a lot of dollar signs in people's eyes right now. And it doesn't seem entirely right to me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about her face. No, we don't mean counting her wrinkles, though that is going to come up in a bit. FACE, F-A-C-E, is the acronym she uses for the 4 things we need to work on for our bodies. And it's like something about facing longevity or facing your future, or something like that is the origin of that acronym. So this is from an interview with Mark Hyman. Yeah, so she's got an Instagram post where she was apparently interviewed on his podcast. Here's where I want to flag something. First of all, Mark Hyman is deeply problematic. And when I see Vonda associating with Mark Hyman, I'm immediately less trusting of her. I think it's really important to watch for how someone you're following online starts to associate with other professionals in their sphere, and ask yourself why Vonda Wright stands to benefit from associating with Mark Hyman. What mutually beneficial purposes that serve? So here's a bit about Mark Hyman if you're not aware. He is, quote, pro-vaccine safety, which is a dog whistle term for basically casting doubt on the safety of vaccines. He suggests that vaccines cause autism.
Oh, God. In
addition to his very irresponsible stance on vaccines, he will promote restrictive dieting. He will claim that saturated fats don't cause heart disease, which flies in the face of a whole shit ton of evidence. He routinely undermines trust in evidence-based medicine, suggesting that doctors are fed lies in medical school. He takes a, quote, functional medicine approach and endorses things like ozone therapy and heavy metal detoxification.
Oh boy.
His functional medicine approach often includes extensive lab tests, supplement regimens, and detox programs. He frames a lot of his ideas as, quote, nuanced, but really they're just totally lacking in evidence. He does what a lot of grifters do, which is he often rejects scientific consensus and instead espouses ideas that live in very gray areas scientifically. So when you see someone like Vonda Wright go on Mark Hyman's podcast, for me at least, that raises my hackles. It's likely a mutually beneficial audience capture opportunity where now Mark Hyman is going to get Vonda's audience and Vonda's going to get some of Mark Hyman's audience. And why would they think that these two audiences would be attractive to each other? Right. Obviously, they understand that they're working with the same kind of people. They're selling a lot of the same kind of ideas. Don't get me wrong. I think Vonda's leagues and leagues better than Mark Hyman at this point. But each lends the other a kind of borrowed credibility. They create an illusion of consensus. And by doing this, they expand their reach, which in the attention economy is just another way of saying like they improve their earning potential. So these alliances aren't about truth or having an interesting discussion to get to the bottom of things as much as they're about amplification and mutual gain. I think it's really important to see who people are associating with. So Peter Attia, for example, had a couple of grifters on his platform, people like Gabrielle Lyon and Mike Boyle, both of whom have very questionable messages around exercise and nutrition. Whereas I thought Peter Attia, for the most part, except for a couple of his weird mechanistic theater type rabbit holes and some of his like self-experimentation and his obsession with like self-optimization. I have his book and I've read parts of it. And I'm like, a lot of what he's suggesting is pretty sound advice, kind of like what we're saying about Vonda. But now he's platforming Mike Boyle. He's platforming Gabrielle Lyon. He's recently platformed someone like Rhonda Patrick, who is another person who has some very questionable ideas and spreads a lot of misinformation around exercise and health. So, just keep an eye on who they're consorting with.
Yeah. So yeah, let's take a look at her face. So face, let's break it down. F stands for flexibility and joint mobility. She says we need to stretch tendons and ligaments and muscles daily so that we don't become shuffling old people, and we can use Pilates and yoga for this. A stands for aerobic. She prescribes what's called base training and heart rate sprinting. C stands for carry a load, which is just talking about lifting weights. And E stands for equilibrium and foot speed. So she teaches people how to balance. She has recently started to add foot speed. She says, because as we age, we're losing our type 2 fast twitch muscle fibers. Okay, so let's break this down.
All right, let's start with flexibility and mobility. So, do we really need to stretch our tendons and ligaments and muscles on a daily basis? We put this into consensus. Let's see what consensus says. So, flexibility and range of motion / regular stretching 3 to 5 times per week significantly improves flexibility and range of motion. Okay, daily stretching is not required for most people to achieve these benefits. Okay, muscle and tendon properties. Most studies show that stretching protocols of 3 to 8 weeks, even when performed daily, do not significantly change the structural properties of muscles or tendons. Improvements in flexibility are mainly due to increased stretch tolerance, right? It's a sensory adaptation. So stretching 3 times per week is more effective than once per week. No surprise there. Daily stretching does not show major additional benefits over 3 to 5 times per week for most healthy adults. Long-term benefits for special populations. So in older adults or those unable to exercise, daily stretching may improve blood flow and vascular function. It's a way of moving, right? For injury prevention and rehabilitation, evidence is limited and mixed. The one thing that we would really want to kind of back up and do a thorough job of before even getting into the details of all of this is like, what do we mean by stretching?
Yeah. I mean,
which we should probably just do an entire series about.
Yes.
Stretching.
It's a very
can mean
complicated,
so many things. Right?
And the research around it is difficult because the protocols for all these different studies are so different that it's very hard to then do like a meta-analysis because the comparison is almost impossible.
Yeah.
I want to say, because she's claiming that the reason people shuffle is because they've lost flexibility. My experience working with older people is that they shuffle because they're afraid of falling, right? They don't want
Mhm.
to take a big step because a big step feels risky. It's much more
Uh-huh.
time in that single leg part of your walking. So they shuffle because it feels more stable because their feet are staying on the floor. But as soon as you give them something to hold on to, if you give them a railing and say, okay, walk along, but you're going to hold this railing, they'll
Uh,
take bigger steps.
yep.
And it's not like you don't need a ton of range of motion for walking anyway.
Yeah.
So I think attaching it to the reason why people shuffle is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to make sense to me that it would be a range of motion limitation, like you
Yeah.
said. Like, definitely more of a confidence thing and maybe also more of a power deficiency,
Yeah,
right?
it's right, exactly.
Okay, A for aerobic. All right, so we're on FA for aerobic. Base training is another term for zone 2. So she calls it base training. And in the running community, it's slow running is usually called base training. You build your aerobic base.
Yeah.
So it's just below your first aerobic threshold, LT1, as a way to improve that threshold. Yeah, so there's been more research coming out on zone 2 and the purpose it serves. Basically, all intensities above zone 2 can also improve your aerobic threshold. In fact, more efficiently than zone 2, but zone 2, I think the benefit of zone 2 or any type of, the more accurate term is moderate intensity cardio, is that it is very easy to recover from. So you can accumulate more volume. It's a good place probably for beginners to start because the forces are often lower as experienced by the body when engaging in it. Okay, so then her definition of sprint training includes things like rowing and climbing. That is very puzzling. She's just interested in getting your heart rate up. She's not saying you have to do that with actual sprinting. I don't know why we choose the word sprinting then, because sprinting is actually pretty well defined in the literature. So I think maybe what she should say is just higher intensity cardio,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Okay, I don't know that this is the most accessible way to encourage people to engage in aerobic activity. Like, why are
Yeah,
you saying sprinting when it's not actually sprinting? What
right.
are you trying to
Well, so
elicit
does
from
Stacy
people?
Sims, right? Stacy Sims
Exactly.
does the same thing. So
Yeah.
it does seem like there's a little bit of Stacy Sims influence going on here.
If we're truly sprinting, it's something that you should probably work up to
Yeah.
within the mode that you're going to do it. So if you want to be a sprinting rower, you're going to start at slower speeds and build up your volume over time. And eventually you start to be able to sprint as a rower.
I don't see why we can't just say do a combination of moderate and high intensity cardiovascular exercise as promoted by the CDC and just leave it at that
Yeah. Let's
for the
not be
aerobic.
so confusing and restrictive with
Yeah.
our language.
Yeah. Okay, so C, FAC, is for carry a load. This is her saying that we need to lift heavy shit. Or she does say start with body weight if you're a beginner. And she talks about this a lot. She talks about it in other posts as well. And sometimes she says we need to lift heavy in order to get as strong as possible, which is true. But sometimes she also says we need it for bone density, which research is now showing is not true, that you can do moderate and even possibly light weights and still impact bone. I'm guessing that she's learned this from the Lift More protocol, right? I mean, that's our sense. And then the last one, E, equilibrium and foot speed. She does emphasize that we need to work on balance. Great. In other social posts, she shows standing on one leg for balance. Now, there is a systematic review from 2022 that shows single leg training can improve both static and dynamic balance, but it's looking at healthy adults without any musculoskeletal injuries or diseases that might impair balance control. So, Laurel, what this is telling me is I think we also need to do an episode about what are the most effective ways to improve different types of balance.
That's great. So the one thing I'll say is that static balance is a component of fall risk reduction. It's something
Yes.
that is measured, but usually alongside other capacities slash things that can be measured to predict fall risk. It's definitely one possible piece of the puzzle, but it's, again, just one piece.
Yeah. And then she's now talking about foot speed as well. And it's not her way of talking about power exclusively, but she's using foot speed as a skill that people have lost, right? And she demonstrates in another post how she trains people to start tapping just their toes and then tapping just their heels and then alternating tapping toes and heels in order to get that faster foot speed, which I think if you've got somebody who's sedentary, or who really can't start training power in ways that require more physical strength, this is a decent place to start. I don't have any problem with this. Get people to
It's,
move their feet faster. I see that as a problem for seniors all the time.
well, I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit, which is that I've seen these videos that she's posted on her grid where people are sitting in a chair
Uh-huh.
and they're like moving their feet up and down. I don't know what that's preparing their feet to be quick at, other than to be quick while sitting in a chair. And do we need our feet to be quick while sitting in a chair?
No, but my point is, and I don't know that she's saying this, but like my point would be, let's say I started working with someone and they're really, really physically deconditioned to the point that standing up is something they can't even do for very long. I would start here with them.
I mean, if they can't stand up, sure, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's not the worst thing in the world.
But I feel like there is an oversimplifying almost of what foot speed even means, which is kind of an oversimplifying a little bit of what fall risk prevention means when she talks about static balance, is like trying to narrow it down into this like one thing you can tell people is very good for marketing and brand building, but it's not actually giving people a really solid understanding of how they can actually improve their foot speed and how they can actually improve their balance. Like it's a little bit like of this hang up with protocols. Well, you're missing the forest for the trees.
The other thing I want to say about that is that I don't know that there's any research that shows working on your foot tapping speed reduces your fall risk.
Which kind of leads me to my next question is, what is she basing this recommendation off of? Yes, we know that power is an important capacity to maintain for fall risk prevention.
Right.
But foot speed, how do we observe and measure foot speed as it relates specifically to fall risk prevention? And I doubt that there has been a study where people are sitting in a chair and moving their feet as fast as possible.
And the other thing is, when I'm working with patients who are a falls risk, who have fallen, and we're working on that foot speed, the way that I have them do it is they'll stand in front of me and have their hands outstretched, and I'm holding their hands or their forearms. I'm facing them. And I have them just shift their weight forward until they feel like they're going to lose their balance and then take a step.
That's very functional. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And then my hands are there just as an in case. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. And we do it again. And they do it with the other foot. Then we do it sideways. Then we do it backwards. Right. Yeah. I guess my feeling is like her heart's in the right place, but the advice maybe isn't the right advice.
I think what happens is that she goes on these talk shows where people are sitting and she is being videoed for YouTube and she needs an example. And this is the one she uses because it's the one that's going to get attention, right? Yeah. The other thing too is she's not talking about fall risk prevention. She's talking about balance. These are different things too, right? Totally. So anyway, I think it's very gimmicky. And I think that the gimmicky part of what she's doing really helps her brand, but I think it undermines her education, her ability to educate people in a sound way, which we see a lot. We see an undermining of people's education in order to make something really simple and work for social media, right? And unfortunately, sometimes we have to do that too, right, Sarah? That's kind of a balance that you have to walk as a communicator online. So I don't want to come down too hard on it, but I also feel like there is a line that can be crossed. And I feel like this foot speed test might kind of cross it. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so Vonda went on the Mel Robbins podcast. And so we did a whole episode on Stacey Sims and one of her interviews on the Mel Robbins podcast. And I just think it's worth noting, if you did listen to our Make Stacey Sims Make Sense episode, you heard a little bit about Mel Robbins as well as an interviewer. And then I listened to Vonda Wright, her interview on Mel Robbins, 2 times speed, didn't get all the way to the end, but here's what I'm going to say. So number one, Vonda Wright is a far superior science communicator than Stacey Sims. She is good at making complex subjects easy to understand. She puts it into simple words that people can understand. I do get her passion coming through. It doesn't sound like she's falling into mechanistic theater and trying to wow us with her sciencey jargon. She's connecting on things that people practically care about. She emphasizes exercise almost exclusively so far in the interview and calls it anti-aging. And I actually think that that's a pretty refreshing reframe of anti-aging. If we're going to talk about anti-aging, let's lean into the exercise aspect of that. I'm actually totally on board with that idea. I think it's great. And I think it's great to call it anti-aging because you're going to get people be like, ooh, anti-aging. And then they're hearing about how they should be exercising. That's fantastic. The only part of this interview where my hackles went up is when she started talking about the sprints. She started talking about, here's what you should do for aerobic activity. And she said, walk. And she kind of defined it first anecdotally for what she does, which she said she walks at a 4 mile an hour pace on the treadmill at a 4 to 5 incline, which is actually really hoofing it up a pretty good incline. Try to walk 4 miles an hour on a treadmill. That's walking a mile in 15 minutes. And then she's doing it on a 4 to 5 incline. So, okay, that's what she does. I was like, that's definitely zone 2 walking. Later in the episode, she defines zone 2 walking as you're not out of breath, but you wouldn't be able to solve the world's problems in a conversation with a friend. Like, you'd have to focus a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that she's at least trying to define the effort that you should be targeting with walking. Mm-hmm. She then says that the other end of that, sprinting, is valuable. And again, her definition of sprints is at the end of your walk, run as fast as you can.
Oh, wow.
You really, as an orthopedic surgeon, suggesting people go from their walk to then just running as fast as they can. I am very allergic to any type of scaremongering around exercise, but there are a couple of types of exercise where, sprinting is one of those things where I think you don't want to go 10 out of 10 running if you don't have a lot of running under your belt, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing that she then says is that the stuff in the middle, the stuff between zone 2 and sprinting, is what you should avoid. And she defines that as being Orange Theory and other type of boot camp like experiences, which I think is a form of miseducation. I think that Vonda Wright knows more about exercise intensity to understand that zone 3 is not Orange Theory. Zone 3 is literally just a heart rate closer to your max than zone 2. She's saying that Orange Theory is injurious, that she sees a lot of people in her office who've done too much Orange Theory, that you're not going to get the type of cardiorespiratory adaptations that you would get from zone 2 walking and sprinting. I think what's lost here is that, cardio with weights is probably not your best bet if you're trying to maximize the benefits of cardiorespiratory exercise. Like, a better bet would be to engage in cyclical cardio, right? To do something like biking, rowing, swimming, running, walking, right? But to demonize Orange Theory, to say stuff like Orange Theory, Barry's boot camp, whatever, is dangerous, is bullshit. She has no evidence to support that. Would love to see your papers, Dr. Wright. And then to turn around and advise that people sprint at the end of their walk, you're full of shit. Because to tell people that it's safe to sprint after their walk, and with no warning of maybe you should have started jogging slowly before you, like, that's fucking injurious, Dr. Wright. So this idea that you can't see positive cardiorespiratory adaptations from cardio with weights is bullshit. You absolutely can. It's just comes with a high fatigue cost, and it's going to be less accessible for most folks. So I think that she's being overly restrictive. She's espousing non-evidence-based claims. She's scaremongering, but at the same time giving really irresponsible exercise prescription. So I'm confused.
It's a mix. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into some of the more dubious social media content that she's put out. I'm not going to lie. Yes, her messaging is a bit confusing, a bit mixed, and she may be pushing this idea of the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause, where the evidence may or may not be completely there. But she is talking about resistance training, and she is talking about picking up barbells, and she is talking about exercise. I mean, her prescription, again, is a bit weird, but I wasn't a total Vonda Wright hater.
No.
Because I was like, she's doing something, right? She's showing herself doing barbell back squats and box jumps. She's trying, it seems, to put out at least some messaging about women, like really serious messaging about women need to do much more exercise.
Can I also add that she looks like she actually trains?
Yes. This is a person
legitimately looks like she knows her way around a barbell, knows her way around plyometrics, is strong, and actually trains, as opposed to Mary Claire Haver, who looks like once a week she turns on the camera and picks up a hex bar. You know what I mean?
And puts on her weighted vest and does all her exercises.
Right. Like, and you can tell, you can see that Mary Claire Haver has either not been strength training until very recently, or just very infrequently trains maybe just
Yeah.
for the camera.
So I wasn't feeling terrible about Vonda Wright. I knew there were some problems, but I was like, she's not as bad as everybody else. And then this happened.
This is a post where, when I sent this to Sarah very late at night, did a remix of it. I'm not going to post that remix, but basically, this is a post where we see Vonda Wright examining her face close up and pointing out her wrinkles, or rather the lack of wrinkles that she has. And she says she is obsessed with making sure she is feeding her skin with something called M4 estriol face cream from a company called Alloy. And in the video, she points out what she calls a sentinel wrinkle that she follows to make sure she is doing everything right.
This made me so mad.
And this is the caption. I use M4 and partner with Alloy, who were the first to create skincare with estriol, a prescription strength ingredient that addresses the hormone-related changes our skin goes through in midlife. And the results are incredible. In just 12 weeks, women using M4 saw a 23% increase in under-eye hydration.
How do you even fucking measure that? What does that mean?
Up to 86% boost in skin elasticity and bounce. And they just pinch their cheek and pull on it a little bit.
Bounces it. Like, ooh, it's bouncy.
It's bouncier. 86%. 86% bouncier.
Not 85.
Up to 25% reduction in wrinkles under the eyes. Okay. And 68% improvement in overall skin health, which they were able to diagnose themselves. These are real clinically proven results. Wait, they're clinically proven.
Clinically proven. I looked, believe me.
So, I mean, I guess this was a study.
There must be. I couldn't find it.
Clinically proven. I wonder who the sponsor of the study was. And right now, Alloy is offering $30 off the M4 bundle. That's the original M4 face cream paired with the newly launched M4 eye cream. Together, they hydrate, firm, and restore your skin inside and out. Inside and out.
Inside and out.
Get all the layers. If you're ready to transform your skin, check the link in my bio. I recommend Alloy to my patients. I promise you won't forget it. Hey, how much does the package cost?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah.
Please hold. Let me find that out. Do you want to talk about the comment section while I find that out?
Yes. Okay. So this post got 3,200 likes, a bunch of comments, and at the top, someone wrote, Dr. Wright, I take your advice very seriously. This feels like an ad. Are you receiving any compensation from endorsing this product?
You think?
Someone else comes to her defense and writes, why can't she? She gives us free info. Can she not earn? And then the original commenter writes, yes, transparency. There's a loss of credibility when genuine medical expertise and advice crosses over into elevating one brand, Alloy, among followers. Looking back, I see her image in an Alloy review by health hackers on YouTube from July 2024. I'm now confused about her primary motive. Now, to Dr. Wright's credit, she has not deleted this comment. Yeah, unlike Mary Claire Haver, which would have immediately deleted it. Okay. So Dr. Wright writes, it is the first line in the caption. I am a user and a partner. So she's confirming, yes, I'm profiting from this ad, basically, that I'm then pushing for Alloy. And then she writes to the person who is like, can she not earn? She writes, well, there is that. Thank you for realizing that I give thousands of hours of free time to everyone on the internet. The time is not free. I have to work for a living like everyone else and feed my family.
Oh, boy.
Thank you for understanding that, as I would rather charge companies than charge the people that I serve.
Oh, boy. All right. Well,
right. Yeah. So she's not charging us. She's charging this company, right?
Right.
I'm serving you with this product. I'm not charging you.
Since we're talking about not charging, let's talk about how much that product costs, which I just looked up. So the regular M4 face cream is $150. And the special M4 eye cream is $90. These bottles don't look especially big, just as a heads up. But you can get $30 off of all of that.
Yeah. So it's pricey. So someone else in her comments, right? You don't need to explain yourself, Dr. Wright. All the advice that you and Dr. Haver share has changed my menopause life. I'm so grateful that I found you both online, as I thought I was going mad. If this face cream works for you, that's amazing. And thank you for sharing. And if you're earning money, so be it. May you earn plenty for all the good that you do.
Yeah. And as an
Yeah.
aside, when I looked up Alloy, the first link that came up was the Pause Life. So Mary Claire Haver also sells this
Yeah.
product, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Is there
just want to
more that
say
you want to
something
say?
about this. I need to feed my family and I need to
Yes,
earn too.
please. Because I'm sure as an orthopedic surgeon, she's not making any money.
Right. It's not that she has 6 books to sell. And then we're going to go into all the other income streams that she has
Yeah.
flowing toward her bank account. Her online presence, no, she's not paid a dollar amount for every reel she posts. That's
That's not how
not how
social media
internet
works.
marketing works. Okay. The way internet marketing works is that you give them something for free so that they give you something in return. She's acting as if all of the posts that she makes on Instagram are completely altruistic, that she doesn't stand to gain anything from them, that there's no marketing. It's so clear that she is trying to pull the wool over these people's eyes. She's actually not being completely transparent in this moment. She knows exactly what she's doing. For her to suggest that she should be applauded for putting forth this information for free, it's
Right.
such a misrepresentation of what she's doing that I cannot take her seriously.
Anyway, before I gouge my eyes out, let's see what research there actually is out there on using estriol specifically for your face. So there's plenty of research on using topical estrogen creams like Premarin and others for helping with GSM, your genitourinary symptoms of menopause, meaning you're applying it topically to the labia and possibly internally, and that it's actually safe and effective. What's out there about using it on your face? Because one of the things that I see on social media are a lot of anecdotal stories of women taking their topical vaginal hormone cream and mixing it with their face cream. And then I just wrote, oh, good Lord, Calgon, take me away, because I cannot. So I found a couple of studies. The first one is called Managing Menopausal Skin Changes, a narrative review of skin quality changes, their aesthetic impact, and the actual role of hormone replacement therapy in improvement, by Viscomi et al. From 2024. And here's what it summarized. Most studies reported positive associations between HRT and improvements in menopausal skin aging, but findings were sometimes inconsistent. Despite decades of research, clinical guidelines do not support HRT use solely for estrogen-deficient skin due to a lack of robust clinical trials on skin-specific therapy. So there's no guidelines for this.
Dr. Jen Gunter has said as much many times.
Yeah. And then the other one that I found is called Topical Estrogen for Skin Aging, a Systematic Review of Safety and Efficacy by Farkas et al. From 2025. And I'm just going to read what it says in the results because I thought this was pretty good. The off-label application of prescription vaginal estrogen to facial skin for, quote, anti-aging benefits is a growing trend on social media. Patients should be cautioned that this expands overall estrogen exposure, and no trials evaluated endometrial safety with combined facial and vaginal use, raising the potential risk of hyperplasia, which is abnormal cell growth and which then is possibly cancer precursor, if not paired with a progestogen. Evidence is constrained by small sample sizes, short durations, variable dosing, and heterogeneous study designs with inconsistent outcome and safety measures.
This is just basically saying it's the wild, wild west.
Yep. Many trials relied on compounded, non-FDA approved formulations, lacking regulatory oversight and several disclosed industry conflicts. Given the significant heterogeneity across studies, confident conclusions about efficacy cannot yet be drawn, and meta-analysis is not feasible. Larger controlled trials are needed to assess long-term safety, particularly endometrial risk in women with an intact uterus, not on a progestogen. So before you start whacking estrogen on your face, it seems like we need a lot more studies on this matter. Also, Vonda, Wright, this makes me not like you very much because as soon as anybody in this menopause starts talking about wrinkles or cellulite, I'm like, this is why we consider you pseudo-feminists. Yeah. This is not a problem. Wrinkles are not a problem to be solved. To your point about this being the wild, wild west, there's so much more testing that needs to go on.
Yeah.
There's so much more exposure if you're putting it on your face and on your vagina. For a medical doctor to be promoting this is something she uses. She wants all her patients on it. I think it's really, really irresponsible.
I think that is the issue, right?
Yeah.
And that is also why it's pseudo-feminist.
Yeah.
Okay, which is you're trying to empower women. That's one of the pillars of your brand, right? To stand up for and empower women in the menopause transition. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you're wantonly promoting this product that is akin to basically selling some untested substance that could potentially cause harm. And you're doing it to reduce wrinkles when there are evidence-based creams for reducing wrinkles, right? For improving
Right.
skin quality. This is not one of them,
Yeah.
not yet at least. And that is, I think, why ultimately it's pseudo-feminist, is that it is preying on women's insecurities, to your point, right?
Yeah.
Using their insecurities to then actually sell them something that's potentially harmful.
Yeah. I don't like it.
No, I hate it. It fucking boils my blood.
So another company that she has partnered with, apart from Alloy, is Mind Body Green. And they have a special creatine plus taurine blend that she is promoting. So I screenshotted several stories from her about this product because there was so much text on screen, I wanted to get it. And there's one with the on-screen text of, this is a quote, 5 things most doctors won't tell you about creatine. I mean, what doctor is talking anyway? Number 1, you will recover faster after workouts, asterisk. Number 2, you'll see lean muscle definition without looking bulky, asterisk. And then I was just like, oh, you can fuck right off.
Right.
Number 3, it is essential for your brain health, asterisk. Number 4, it can help support healthy blood pressure, asterisk. Number 5, paired with taurine, it will increase your strength in just 2 weeks, asterisk. So we know about the asterisks already,
we know about
right?
them. We know about the asterisks.
And we've also talked about creatine with Mary Claire Haver, so we don't really need to go into the creatine part here. So I do want to talk about taurine. Basically, taurine is a non-proteinogenic amino acid, meaning it does not build protein. It's an amino acid, but it's not one of the building blocks of protein that we all make naturally within our own bodies. And it's also found in meat, seafood, and dairy. And it appears that most studies on taurine's effects are either showing really modest effects, meaning like not much, or they're saying more studies are needed. And then additionally, if you are on blood pressure medication or some kind of heart medication, or if you've got an issue with your kidneys, there are serious interaction risks. So the sense I got overall from taurine is that it has not been sufficiently studied in humans specifically, and that a lot more studies are needed.
Yeah, another category of post that she does is the come hang out with me, where she invites the viewer to join her for seminars and retreats. We wanted to highlight one in particular, as it's also in this aspirational category, and that is her girls' trip to Canyon Ranch.
Oh,
Now,
do you know about Canyon Ranch?
No, tell me about it.
It is fancy as fuck.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It is high end.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with it, Canyon Ranch is a very, very fancy retreat, spa, wellness place in Arizona. Sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Yeah.
In the post, she talks about how she's never been on a girls' trip before, but that you can join her in November or January and have spa days and learn how to become unbreakable. Okay, if you're going to join her for either of these trips, it's going to set you back about $6,000 for 3 nights.
Yeah.
So,
like all my girl trips, $6,000 for 3 nights.
Just to go to Arizona.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's before airfare. So obviously, your average person cannot afford this trip.
Yeah.
And this is another one of these aspirational experiences where you might say, well, I can't afford to go on this trip, but I can buy her book and use the product she tells me to use, and then I'm doing good things for myself.
She provides ways for people to give her money at all different levels, right? So maybe you're buying a book for $30, or maybe you're getting the cream on your face for $200, or maybe you're going to Canyon Ranch for $6,000, right? We're putting in options for everybody. All right. So now let's look at what she's saying on social media about things like bone density, heavy lifting, grip strength, and the likelihood of dying when you break a hip. So there's one post where she's stating that estrogen, lifting heavy, and jumping can change your bone density in 6 months. So we already talked about the estrogen part, and it appears she's still working, like we said, from the Lift More model, that heavy lifting and jumping are the best ways to build bone, where we know now that that's not entirely true. And if you haven't already, you should go listen to our episode, Does It Have to Be Heavy?, to hear a lot more about this. So this claim is a bit questionable. It's not wrong, but it's not fully right. And the other thing is 6 months is a bit on the early side for bone changes. You're
Yeah.
more likely to see it after 8 to 9 months.
Yeah, and that's just the initial start of the changes, right?
Yes,
The longer you do it, the better off you're going to be.
exactly.
And then a carousel post. In a carousel post of hers, she repeats a claim we hear a lot from her, which is that an older woman who breaks her hip has a 30% chance of dying within 1 year. We put this question a number of ways into consensus, and it turns out that 30% is probably on the top end of the percentage of people who would die in a year. It's probably somewhere closer to between 15 and 30%. And if it's someone who does have a 30% chance of dying within the year, these are probably the frailest of the frail that we're talking
Yeah.
about. So she's
Yeah.
kind of exaggerating in the sense that she's not giving the range, and then she's not clarifying that 30% would be like extremely frail people.
Exactly.
But yeah, risk increases beyond 30% with age and comorbidity as well.
I would say 30% and up percentage risk is the frailest people.
Okay. So if you have a 30% and up risk of dying within the year after a hip fracture, it means that you're in this category of frailest.
You're someone who's might be completely sedentary or even bedridden. You're somebody who has a lot of comorbidities. You're older.
Right.
This is not your 45-year-old person who's looking at menopause or perimenopause and wanting to do something about it, right? Those people are not breaking a hip and dying within the year.
Yeah. And I think that obviously she chose 30% because it has this like, wow, kind of scare factor to it.
Yeah.
And on one hand, you could say like, well, she's just trying to raise awareness and get people to actually pay attention and think about this. But on the other hand, she's also just creating a lot of anxiety and fear too, right? These types of people, like the menopause, will frequently lean into this type of fear-mongering rhetorical strategy because of negativity bias and the fact that we're much more likely to start listening to them, right?
Totally. Okay, so then there's this other post, and I didn't hate this, but I think Laurel maybe does hate this. It's this idea of starting to introduce jumping and landing for impact for bone density. So not like landing softly the way you typically would after a jump, but landing a little bit stiffly. And I just thought it was an interesting way to, if you're someone who is not yet ready to do a full on like drop landing from a step, she shows you like standing on a step stool, and then you're facing forwards like you're going to keep walking up the steps, but then you drop just one leg back. So you keep one foot on the step and you drop one leg back and you land kind of stiffly on one leg, and then you step back up again and then you land kind of stiffly on the other leg. And I have to say, to be honest, I didn't hate it.
Okay, so I want to say something about this, and this might be a little bit of a tangent. So I don't actually see much value in having people do stiff landings when they could just be resistance training, especially when you're giving this advice to a lay public of which you know nothing about on an individual level. Like, I don't think that this is great advice. Now, the other thing I'll say is that there are ways to start jumping that are going to give you quicker feet. They're going to give you more power. They're going to potentially elevate your aerobic capacity, and they're going to prepare you to be able to handle higher intensity, higher impact stuff like what she's describing. This is not where I would start with people, right? I would start with skipping, soft toe landings, maybe some slow jogging. Heel drops, right? I would start with something where they're being asked to have some reactivity with the ground. Drop landings are not reactive landings.
Laurel, you know what I think this means?
Yeah, what?
We have to do an episode on what kind of impact, what kind of jumping should you be doing? Like,
we have done one called Plyometrics, More Bang for Your Bones.
I know, but we need to update.
We talk about the difference between plyometric exercise and impact training, and how this, which she's describing here, having people do is impact training without plyometric building, right? So plyometric capacity is like really training your muscle tendon unit to be more elastic and responsive and to generate and output more power. What's a good example? Like if you want somebody to be able to take one exercise and then have transfer to multiple different areas of their life.
Yeah.
This isn't it.
No.
This isn't the exercise, right? No. We can have one exercise like pogos or skipping or jumping rope and have it benefit us across multiple different expressions of force. Okay. This doesn't actually improve our ability to produce force.
She's not claiming that's what it's doing,
No,
though.
but here's the thing. Other ways of moving that improve your ability to produce force also cause your bones to experience impact. This is what I'm saying. Is this the best use of time? Because what if you have osteoporosis, osteopenia, and you're starting with this? Like people who sign up for our course, we're like, here's a PDF, and here's also live classes in which we're going to give you this menu of things to begin with. And here's why you might choose this and not this and this and not this. And then here's how you know you're ready to move on to this, right? There's none of that happening here. It's like, do this stiff-legged landing on one foot off a step. It's like, I can think of a ton of other pieces of advice that would be more valuable. Like maybe start by skipping and then learn to jump rope and then build up from there. And I know that that's not going to have your bones experiencing as much impact right off the bat, but that might actually be a good thing. Right?
Should we do the next one?
Okay. And then in another Instagram post, she's being interviewed and she's asked if wearing a weighted vest around the house will help build bone. And she says no. Sorry, Mary Claire Haver. Though super technically, according to one study, which is just one data point, we'd want a lot more than that. If you wear it for 8 to 10 hours, it might build your bones, which God bless you if you're going to do that for however many days or weeks people had to do that. Jesus. She states that what it is doing is it's increasing your workload or your work capacity in a kind of like 2-for-1, where you're doing chores and then you're also happening to have to overcome more resistance in the process. So.
All right. So the last one I wanted to highlight, this one, I kind of loved this. So this is one where they appear to be, it's a whole bunch of people appear to be at some sort of like event. Everyone's wearing little buttons that say, I love HRT. And she pulls out a dynamometer, which is that tool that you use to test grip strength. And so she has all of the people there test their grip strength. And again, we know that grip strength is a marker for overall strength, but just having a stronger grip does not automatically mean you're going to live longer. With that said, the thing that was funny to me, and this might make me a mean girl, is that Mary Claire Haver is one of the people that does it. And her number is lower than the normative value for 50 to 59-year-olds.
Okay.
Like she has the lowest possible number you could have.
Yeah. Yeah, again,
So
it just
like,
kind of
that kinda
reaffirms
doesn't
my
surprise me.
suspicion that Mary Claire Haver hasn't been lifting weights for very long. Hopefully she continues to do it more than just when she's filming reels for Instagram.
All right, I think it's time to griftometer this lady.
Okay, let's do it. All right, number 1, do you even know what the real problem is, bruh? I think that she scores kind of low on this.
Yeah, she's not terrible.
No, I think what she's saying is basically your symptoms are coming largely from inactivity, right? So she wants you to be more active. And I do think that that is kind of where some of the real problem is, bro. So I don't think she's misleading us.
I mean, she's saying the real problem, well, it's her face thing, right? It's you need to be more flexible. You need to do aerobic exercise. You need to do heavy lifting, and you need to work on your balance.
Good point. I don't think it's wrong to work on any of those things. You know, I think the real problem is going to be like, well, who are we talking about, you know, on an individual
Right. And also
level?
my wrinkles are not the real problem.
No. And that's not what she's saying. I mean, in fairness.
Right.
So I think that she scores really low.
Yeah. Like a 1 or a 2.
I mean, is there anything misleading that she's trying to suggest?
Apart from her exercise prescription that's a bit cattywampus?
Yeah. So
let's call it a 1. Okay. Everyone needs this. She does not separate out anybody from anybody, right? Everyone needs this aloe face cream. I mean, she's saying everyone needs to be exercising more, which is true.
Yeah, I think that she, like most of the people in the Menopause, fails to qualify. There are very few caveats. There are very few consult your doctor because this might be inappropriate for you if this, and this is going on. I just don't see that happening. So she's very kind of advertising a lot.
Yeah. So what do we think? Like a 3 or a 4?
Well, why wouldn't we give her a 5, I guess?
Because some of the things that she's saying is true. Like everyone does need to be doing aerobic exercise. Everyone does need to be lifting weights.
Right. So when she says everyone needs this, she's partly right. Okay. In that case, I would give her like a 3 because most of what she's talking about is exercise. In fact, I would maybe even give her a 2.
Okay. Next one.
Appearance assassinators.
I mean, she's selling me cream for my wrinkles. But she never talks about losing that ugly, stubborn belly fat. She's never doing any of that stuff. Yeah. She's just talking about getting stronger.
Did she ever talk about cellulite?
No, not that I've seen.
Yeah, she kind of veered off of her main storyline with the skin post.
Yeah, it really kind of threw me. Yeah.
It did seem really incongruous with most of her message. People were like, where the fuck is this? This is coming out of nowhere, Dr. Wright. Like,
Right.
what are you fucking
Yeah.
talking about now?
I'm talking about dollar signs. That's what I'm talking about.
So I'm going to give her like a 2.
Okay. That sounds fair. Fiddle faddle. Does she just use a lot of word
Very
salad?
little
Not really.
fiddle-faddle.
No.
She, like I
I'm gonna
said,
say
she's
1.
actually quite
Yeah.
good science communicator, I think,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
though she exaggerates a lot.
Yeah.
So therefore not a good science communicator. Like not a good science communicator in the sense that I don't think that she's interested in communicating the nuance, right, at all, because that's not great for selling shit, but in the sense that she does not produce mechanism theater.
Right. So for fiddle faddle, we give her a 1?
Yeah. By the way, listeners, mechanism theater, we talk about that in the Stacey Sims episode. It's just using a lot of really technical terms and kind of overwhelming people with words they don't understand so that they think that they can't possibly understand this without your help. I think that Vonda Wright does a good job of making things understandable when she talks.
Yes, I agree.
Microscope of practice. I think she gets a higher score here.
Yeah.
She's an orthopedic surgeon, but she talks an awful lot about hormone therapy.
Yeah.
Now, she talks about it within her scope of practice as it relates to what she's calling musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. Okay, which there does appear to be some evidence supporting the idea that women in the menopause transition do suffer from more musculoskeletal issues. However, now we've got the estradiol for the skin, and we've got the pushing hormones for millennials, and that
creatine and taurine.
Yeah, so creatine, so like I'm not anti-creatine, like I said in the Mary Claire Haver section of this episode.
But if we're talking about the question of is it relevant as an orthopedic surgeon that she's promoting creatine?
She's promoting exercise, right?
Yes.
You know, I actually think that from what I understand about orthopedic surgeons, they tend, many of them, to have like very scaremongery attitudes toward exercise. They have a lot of non-evidence-based ideas about things that are bad for your knees and things that are bad for your back. And it's all because of their bias, right? They see all these people who've hurt their knees and hurt their backs doing certain things, and then they extrapolate that out to the general population, not keeping in mind that they're seeing a very small sliver of the population that's actually doing these types of exercises. So it's that same kind of Stu McGill bias where he's, well, if people flex their spine, have ruined their back. And it's like, no, dude, that's your bias. I think for microscope of practice, her pushing creatine is a money grab, right? She does not convey the nuance around how minimally helpful creatine was. She also overplays its benefits and says like it's essential for brain health when there's not enough studies in like healthy populations to show that that's true yet. Yeah, I would give her like a 3 or a 4, to be honest. My eyebrows go up. I'm like, you're an orthopedic surgeon and you sure are given a wide variety of little pieces of advice here.
Right. Okay. Unfair advantage. This is, do they sell supplements? I mean, yes. She's affiliated with Mind Body Green to sell this creatine product. She's not selling her own product.
And she's not selling any other type of supplement. Is that right? So the fact that she sells creatine, I'm sort of like, so does Barbell Medicine probably. So does a lot of other people I trust. And there is evidence supporting creatine for modest improvements to hypertrophy, modest improvements to strength. But, you know, I don't care that she sells creatine.
Let's give her a 3.
I mean, I think that's a little high.
You want to give her a 2?
I'd give her a 1. I don't care that she sells creatine. I actually think it's negligible. Like, it doesn't change my mind about her at all.
Fair enough.
You know, her realm is exercise, you know,
It's
and
true.
she's selling creatine, and creatine does have some good support. It's safe, it's affordable, and it's effective. And then finally, we have Army Hammer. And while Sarah and I are not intimately familiar with the hammer of the Army that is Vonda Wright's Army Hammer, because we have never done a critical post on Vonda Wright, it does seem like, based on a couple of posts that we've seen where people have chimed in and been like, wait a second, why are you selling me estriol cream? People swoop in to defend her. And look, like, I've swept in on some of my favorite people's posts, like Lauren Colenso Semple. I'll go to battle for her in the comments section. I've gone to battle for other people in their comment section because I kind of fucking like to argue, let's be honest. I don't have enough information, or I don't have enough experience with the hammer of the Army of Vonda Wright to say what score to give her here. Definitely, I would give her a 1, but I don't know that I would give her anything higher than that because I just don't know.
And we also haven't heard stories from other people about being blocked by her because
No.
you dared to suggest something that was contradictory to what she was saying, or getting into flame wars in the comments sections. We haven't heard that about her, but we really have heard that about Mary Claire Haver.
And one thing I'll say too is the way that she responded to that critical comment that was questioning her motives for sharing the estriol cream post, the way that she handled that person was really manipulative and lacking in transparency. And it worked on some of her followers where they're like, yeah, she deserves to earn money, right? Can't she earn a
Right.
little money every once in a while?
Right.
So I think that it seems like her audience exhibits characteristics of the hammer, but again, I think for me, it's too early to say how they would respond if we put up a negative post of Vonda Wright.
Well, so should we give it a 2 for now?
I'd be okay with a 2. Yeah.
All right. So Vonda Wright is only 37% grifter.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's fair. So Mary Claire Haver was 90 something.
94% for Mary Claire Haver, 37% for Vonda.
I wonder how Stacey Sims would compare. My feeling is Stacey Sims is between Vonda and Haver.
Probably. She has that whole thing with momentous.
She's not as high as Haver because she's not wearing a weighted vest in every reel. She doesn't, to my knowledge, sell turmeric, but she does sell lots of adaptogens, which are real lacking in evidence. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see. Like, Sims kind of rivals Mary Claire Haver, in my opinion. She's just very different flavor.
Yes, totally. All right. So if I was held at gunpoint and I had to pick like one of these two people as like the better one, obviously I'm picking Vonda Wright because her overall message is very clearly about lifting weights, staying strong, getting exercise.
There's way less confusing bullshit.
Yes. And even though she's starting to dip her toe, it appears, into sponsored content, and who knows where that's going to go. And I think that's a very watch this space. But those are my thoughts. Do you have concluding thoughts about both or either of them?
No, I think I agree.
All right, folks. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this episode and got a little more clarity around these two members of the Menopause.
Who probably appear often in your feed.
Well, now that you've listened to this episode, they're both going to appear in your feed. Sorry.
That's a thing. That's a thing.
That's how it goes. Don't forget to sign up for our free strength class that is in 2 days from now. The link is in the show notes. And again, thank you for listening. And it always helps. We've had some very interesting reviews lately. Some of them are positive and some of them are not positive.
Some of them are 5 stars, but mostly negative.
Some of them, give us 5 stars, but say mean things. It's very funny.
Yeah.
But we appreciate all of it. I enjoy all of the reviews.
Yeah.
So please, if you have time and you are motivated, give us a review or rate us and subscribe to the podcast. Send this episode. If you've got a friend who's like a super MCH or VW super fan, send them this episode, though they might not appreciate it, and your friendship might not benefit from it. But
if that's the case, they're in the Army Hammer, yo. They're Army Hammer.
It's true. All right. Have a good day is what I was about to say.
Have a great day.
We will see you next week.